Chapter 80. Swimming in the sea on a sunny day. It seems that it has not ushered in the night for a long time. This is the polar day that Xiao Qixi is very familiar with, but when he surfaced, he saw the floating ice in the distance, which means that it is now the cold season. The little killer whale born in the warm season is about to usher in the polar night in Antarctica. Soon, this place will be shrouded in darkness. The coldest month in Antarctica is April to October, and the cold and warm season is exactly the opposite of the Arctic. Corresponding to the Arctic, when the Arctic enters the polar day in late March, is the beginning of the polar night in Antarctica. Xiao Qixi determined his location through what he saw and heard. It is the South Pole. He is a killer whale living in the South Pole. Looking at his mother's chubby appearance and small eye spots, it should be an A-type killer whale. He likes it. However, their kind of killer whale does not stay in Antarctica all year round. When Antarctica enters the ice period, A-type killer whales will migrate to the sea near the equator to live. A few killer whales will continue to stay in Antarctica to eat seals and penguins. Will they be cold? No. The fat of the killer whale is very thick. It is like wearing a versatile thermostatic down jacket. Its body temperature is maintained at 36 degrees Celsius all year round. This is thanks to the heat exchange system they have. There is no place to dissipate heat on the smooth body. It is like a laptop without the CPU cooling function. It is hot. However, when mating, killer whales still like to choose summer. After all, some vulnerable parts are not wearing down jackets, and the temperate ocean is more suitable for intimate relationships. Although killer whales can mate all year round, they are modest gentlemen, unlike the promiscuous dolphins. Killer whales are very conservative and self-disciplined in this respect and will not get close to other killer whales casually. It is not wrong to say that they are conservative. So far, most killer whales still experience arranged marriages. When they reach the age of mating, the older females in the group decide which group to marry. I don't know if male killer whales have no right to decide, or they don't have the knowledge in this area. In short, they're arranged clearly. Parents let male killer whales go to whichever community and family to contact female killer whales, and they will go. If the female killer whale of the other party is not interested, they will come back dejectedly, and the depressed mood will last for a while, just like humans being hit by the opposite sex. Because of this social relationship, many humans think that male killer whales are a group of mommy's boys who can't live independently without their family and community. In fact, this is a prejudice. In terms of strength, male killer whales can easily defeat female killer whales. Female killer whales of the same species are always a size smaller than male killer whales, and their combat effectiveness cannot be compared. Even if a male killer whale leaves his family, he can also form a team with other male killer whales and run amok in the ocean. Compared to encountering a group of killer whales made up of family members, other animals in the ocean were more afraid of encountering a group of killer whales that were all male. If Bro Flattop on the grassland could create a new era with 10 badgers, then 10 male killer whales could overturn the entire Pacific Ocean. This was not to say that male killer whales who fought alone had no power. There were many records of killer whales killing large marine animals alone in human records. Most of these records appeared near Australia. There was no reason for this. It was a regional phenomenon. He was more reckless when it came to killer whales in Australia. Killing blue whales alone was not a problem. Almost every adult whale living in Australian waters has traces of killer whale bites on its body. Whales who have not been hunted by killer whales dare not say that they are out there. Xiao Qixi was glad that he was not born in Australia. He was reluctant to kill young whales. When he became a whale, he felt that all whales were his own kind. Killer whales belong to the family Cetaceae. Subdivided, he is a kind of dolphin, but he is indeed a whale. He does not want to kill whales that also have rich feelings and high IQ. Anyway, killer whales can eat other food in the ocean. The taste of big fish is also very delicious. Unfortunately, he is still young and his stomach is fragile. He can't eat. Most of the time, he still drinks milk. His mother's milk can ensure full nutrition and raise him. A month after the birth of the little killer whale, the small family still maintained a very high and happy mood, playing with the little killer whale in the ocean every day. In addition to hunting, killer whales live a very casual and free life, and there is really nothing to be busy with. They will maintain a very slow speed, floating slowly in the calm sea, and from time to time, going up to take a breath. Before the baby killer whale, the family of 4 floated like this, and it was inevitably a little lonely. After the baby killer whale was born, the small family was complete and happy. Every killer whale likes to interact with the little killer whale and play with the little killer whale. They all know how to act cute, cry, turn their bellies up, and let the little killer whale lie on their bellies to play. Sometimes the family of 5 will forget to eat when they play. They are so hungry that their eyes are green, and they will go hunting when they can't. Killer whales are very hungry. Even if they don't eat for half a month, they will be fine. But under normal circumstances, killer whales don't torture themselves like this. There are fish everywhere in the ocean. When they are hungry, they rush into the fish group and fan their tails to eat. Since the birth of the little killer whale, the small family has rarely chased after the baby whale. It seems that they also know that the safety of the little killer whale is the first, and eating is the second. It seems that the premature death of Ada's first baby killer whale has caused a psychological shadow on the 4 killer whales, causing them to be very careful now and cherish the baby that they have lost and recovered. The young whales in the nearby sea escaped the disaster thanks to Qiao Qishi, but the targets of persecution have become all kinds of big fish. Qiao Qishi sat on her mother's back and witnessed a huge fish being flung out of the water. When that huge fish was flung out of the water, his eyes were almost tired from looking at it. It had swum so high. When the fish fell into the water, it was basically dead. The killer whale waiting nearby opened its mouth and howled. Although fat, its flexible body turned a corner in the sea and made a happy cry. "Thank you, Mom." Sometimes Qiao Qishi can't tell whether they are really eating or playing with food. Probably both. Playing with food until it's dead? In this way, killer whales are really good at pleasing themselves, and they're consciously looking for all kinds of happiness, good or bad. But as the baby of their family, Qiao Qishi can't think of blaming them at all. Because everyone is a fat tiger, they will be like this when they grow up. Recently, their relative's food has been yellowfin tuna. Yes, it's the kind of Antarctic yellowfin tuna that's expensive on the market. The little killer whale is eager to eat it. When he was a human, he was a country bumpkin and didn't eat anything because he was poor and couldn't afford it. 996 was not worthy. He played with the fat tigers. Oh no, he watched the fat tigers play. More than a month passed, and Antarctica was about to enter the frozen period. Their family is going to leave here and go to the sea near the equator to live. The speed of migration has finally sped up a little, but they are still swimming and playing on the road, and sometimes they join the same kind of community. The huge community of the same kind will also happily accept this small family that has joined the collective. They will even help take care of the little killer whale, which can be said to be very friendly. For the first time, Qiao Qishi was teased by a strange killer whale who is not related by blood or relatives. Qiao Qishi's little face turned red. This big fat tiger is so handsome. He screamed at me, he winked at me, and he even turned his belly to me. Qiao Qishi greeted the other party in his own way. At present, he finally groped for a pleasant voice, which is unique to him. On the way to migration, Qiao Qishi also saw other kinds of killer whales. A large group of them rushed past him. The other party's figure was not as fat as the A-type. It was slender, handsome, and valiant. Before in Antarctica, their family lived in a quiet and remote place, probably to protect his safety. Although killer whales don't have a division of territory, everyone is a tactful killer whale. They don't know that there's a killer whale family here. So everyone keeps a proper distance, and the same kind occasionally communicates with each other using ultrasonic waves. Of course, only the same kind of killer whales can communicate. Killer whales of different kinds can't communicate with each other. According to human observations, resident whales talk the most in groups. They talk a lot in a day. Single killer whales also whisper to each other. They send out relatively weak messages, and it seems that they don't want to be heard by other members of the community. Most of the whispers are between males, and no one knows what they are plotting. Maybe they are just complaining about the female killer whales in their own community. Ocean whales and passerby whales are less talkative. They're the type of whales that do big things in silence. Xiao Qi can hear a lot of ultrasonic waves every day. He can understand some simple sounds, such as greeting, calling for companions, evacuating, and gathering. The various passwords for group hunting are more obscure, so he can't understand them. Maybe he can only understand them when he participates in the hunt. There are also some irrelevant gossip. For example, there's a talkative killer whale. Xiao Qi hears this old man talking to himself every day and recording his life. Translated into Chinese, it is probably, "This panda came to so-and-so place, this panda met so-and-so, this panda ate so-and-so today, this panda participated in hunting some kind of fish in some place, this panda is awesome." The style is a bit familiar, just like the humans who do something stupid and post it in their circle of friends. But it's cute. There are also silent killer whales who occasionally make a sound, which is equivalent to human bubbling. Xiao Qishi's wishy-washy uncles were all talkative, but the communication between them was very normal. 1/3 of their voices were for the little killer whale. There was no real meaning in analyzing it, but they were just expressing their concern for him. If they get a response from the baby, the fat tigers will be very happy. After being born for 2 months, the color of the little killer whale's body is already black and white. Its body is round like a drop of water. It looks fat and cute. Its head is round, and its mouth is smooth. When it opens its mouth, it reveals a mouthful of small white teeth. He has teeth for about a month after being born, but this mouthful of teeth needs to be well protected because the killer whale's teeth, like humans, will not be replaced after adulthood, and the wear and tear is irreversible. Antarctic killer whales, with the awareness of protecting their teeth, will try to avoid biting hard things. At this time, it has to be mentioned that Australian killer whales are fireworks with different colors. The slightly older Australian killer whales have a mouthful of rotten teeth because they really like to fight. Their creed is, "As long as my teeth have not fallen out, I will fight to the end." The little man in the suit lying on his mother's pectoral fin blinked his little grape eyes and peeped at a group of killer whales swimming by in the distance. Is there Aodicyanate? The whole ocean is so big that it should not be so easy to find it, but it doesn't matter. The lifespan of killer whales is so long that he has decades to look for it. The most important thing is to grow up quickly. Leaving the waters of Antarctica, the weather at sea became unstable. Sometimes it would rain and thunder. Dark clouds covered the sky, and a huge bolt of lightning split from the middle, followed by the rumbling of thunder. Most of the fish hid in the deep sea and no longer stayed on the turbulent surface of the sea. Mammals living in the ocean can't stay in the deep sea all the time, so they still swim forward close to the surface of the sea. What a big thunder, what a big rain. This kind of weather is so scary. The power of the waves turned the little killer whale's body over and over, and he swam unsteadily. Their family's adult killer whales nervously surrounded him in the middle, lest he be taken away by the waves. When his mother lifted him out of the sea to breathe, Xiao Qi was not afraid. How to say it? The big raindrops hit his head, pitter-patter. Yilashanda, be strong. Taking a few deep breaths, the little killer whale, who was bullied by the raindrops, quickly went into the sea and hid under his mother's belly. He has practiced holding his breath, and he is definitely better than the average little killer whale, but his relatives are worried about him and always drag him to the surface. What Xiao Qi doesn't know is that it is not safe to pass by the island in thunderous and rainy weather. Where there are reefs, there are whirlpools, undercurrents, and the so-called torrents and undercurrents. Maybe he will be caught in the whirlpool if he is not careful. An unlucky guy with his size will be finished if he is caught in it, so the elders still think it is safer to put the little killer whale on the surface of the sea. It doesn't matter if he is lost. There are so many of his kind around, and they will send their baby back. The fat tigers are not afraid, but Xiao Qi is very scared. When he was lost for the first time, he cried. Where was he? The heavy rain and waves blocked the killer whale's line of sight. They no longer rely on their vision to determine their position, but rely on the echolocation system. When Xiao Qixi was as helpless as duckweed, a male killer whale lifted him up and sent him to his mother's side. During this period, there was no communication between the two sides. The male killer whale followed the signal sent by Ada and accurately found the location. After the meeting, the male killer whale who helped silently did not leave. He accompanied the small family on the periphery and spent the night in the wind and rain. Is it because he has taken a fancy to the female killer whale in the small family? No, this killer whale just wants to help take care of the child. His purpose is very, very simple. Leaving the Arctic Circle, there is night, but such a night is too exciting. Xiao Qixi, who returned to his mother's arms, sighed secretly. By the way, he cast an inquiring look at the killer whale who sent him back. Is this Ao Daisai? Slowly, Xiao Qixi observed that the other party is a very mature adult, at least 20 years old, so the possibility of it being Ao Daisai is very low. Alas, it is good to meet new friends. Thank you, the big fat tiger handsome who is willing to help whales. Looking at the other party's straight dorsal fin, he should be a handsome guy. The next morning, the wind and rain stopped, and the weather on the sea became good again. The wind and waves were calm, and the turbulence of last night could not be seen at all. The handsome killer whale who escorted the cub left quietly. Fortunately, Xiao Qixi remembered the other party's voice. Next time, as long as the other party spoke, he could recognize him. It is estimated that the other party also remembers his voice. After all, he is so friendly to him. Maybe through calling, he can summon the other party. Of course, he will not try it casually, unless it is necessary. The blue sea was clear, the sun was comfortable, and the sea was warm with the hot sun. The human fishing boat, which had been frightened all night, returned to normal today. The killer whale in front sent back a message that there was a large fishing boat in front of them. The little killer whale learned a new quantifier from this message. Very, very big. How big is it? Soon Xiao Qixi knew how big the fishing boat was. In terms of the scale of the fishing boat, the volume was indeed very considerable, and they were fishing. Of course, the flexible and smart killer whales will not be caught in the net. They will approach when the humans pull in the net and take the opportunity to steal fish. When a human saw a group of killer whales on the sea, they knew that they were going to bleed a lot today. The sea hooligans, although late, arrived. The group of black and white fat men ate the big fish, but some of them were reluctant to leave. Instead, they poked their heads out of the water and peeped at the humans working on the side of the boat with big grape eyes. Edash, the killer whale, teased the humans as usual. Under his persistent efforts, a fish was thrown at him from the boat. The killer whale caught the food perfectly. But there are also individual killer whales with unique ideas that will make shocking moves. A few years later, in the Atlantic Ocean, there are also traces of killer whales here. They are a more mysterious type of killer whale and are not very familiar with them. They are the Atlantic Type 1 and the Atlantic Type 2. For them, humans have much less information than the passerby whale and the Antarctic Type A, so they are very mysterious and low-key, full of curiosity. Among them, the Atlantic Type 2 is the largest of all the killer whale species, a little larger than the Antarctic Type A, and there is not much difference between the two in appearance. It is also black and white. If you don't look at their living habits, it is easy to confuse them with the Antarctic Type A. Killer whales living in the Atlantic Ocean eat fish as the staple food and live a relatively stable social life. But recently, a human photographer photographed an Atlantic Type 2 killer whale about 6 years old, who left the group life alone and became a wandering whale. This place was very shocking and puzzling. However, it is not that there is no phenomenon of male killer whales leaving the group, usually at least after adulthood. This maverick Atlantic Type 2 killer whale seems to be very adapted to a solitary life. He seems to be at ease in the ocean. Whether it is hunting or playing by himself, he shows a steadiness and strength that is different from his age. It seems that he was born with the ability to fight against everything. You know, a normal 6-year-old killer whale is still learning how to survive by his mother's side, but this 6-year-old killer whale has already taken charge of everything and traveled around the world alone. Such a powerful subadult killer whale, people gave him a cool name, Aodisai, which means the sharp one. Aodisai, the killer whale who is very sensitive to human gaze but disdains it, is observed by humans from time to time. This little cool guy who loves freedom came from the Atlantic Ocean to the Eastern Pacific Ocean. This is the territory of the passerby whale, which is strange to him. It is even dangerous. The passerby whale is a kind of carnivorous killer whale. They like to hunt marine mammals, seals, sea lions, and their own close relatives, harbor porpoises, and even their main dishes. They eat a lot. When the number of members is large, all kinds of whales are also eaten. In the eyes of humans, the passerby whale is a new species different from other killer whales, which is very cold. Compared with other talkative killer whales, the passerby whale is silent and communicates very little with its companions. Even when hunting, it doesn't even use sonar signals because they are very smart and know that other mammals also use echolocation. In order to hunt each other, the passerby whale gave up using this skill. What a smart and cold existence this is. Of course, the passerby whale hunting killer whales has not happened yet. They are at most indifferent to other kinds of killer whales. The general passerby whale group is also led by females. Most of them are immediate relatives of this female, and they will not accept other killer whales into the group so easily. Therefore, a special group lives in this sea area. They have no family members, so they combine to form a new group. Sometimes there are males and females, and sometimes they are all males. Aodisai from the Atlantic joined a group of passerby whales that were all male killer whales and became a passerby whale with a bad reputation. He is a veritable tyrant of whales. This discovery is very shocking, and it is difficult to understand why he did this. Was it for excitement? Male killer whales who travel together will wander around. In the eyes of other marine animals, they do all kinds of evil and are despised. Later, the Atlantic Type 2 killer whale almost gave up the habits of its own species. It was like a natural passerby whale. He was so adapted to a wandering life. The author has something to say. Aodisai, because I eat seals? There's one more update when everyone is having dinner, 1800 hours. Chapter 81. This group of passing whales who were willing to accept foreign killer whales had a total of 5 at first. There were not many of them, and even the leader was very young, only about 25 years old. The other members were 20 to 11 years old, which was quite young. Maybe that's why they were willing to accept outsiders to join the group. At the beginning of their encounter, the group of male killer whales were unwilling to pay attention to a strange killer whale from the Atlantic, and they passed by each other very silently. However, this Atlantic killer whale followed them and slowly even joined their hunting operations. When Aodisai first joined the hunting operation of this group of killer whales, the passing whales planned to beat him up and keep him away from their group. Unfortunately, their repeated attacks did not hurt the other party, which made the fat tigers quite angry. As the same kind, they did not want to kill Aodisai, so they gave up when they couldn't beat him. In this way, Aodisai, who seemed to have no destination, continued to follow the group of killer whales swimming in the boundless ocean. When the killer whale group hunted for food, he would also join in, and many times he showed excellent strength. He, who participated in the hunt, was also qualified to share the food, which was very different from the carnivores on the grassland. Land carnivores are very protective of their food. Killer whales are not. Over time, Aodisai will naturally become familiar with the language of this group of killer whales and become able to communicate with each other. It is a rare example of a different kind of killer whale learning the language of another kind. At least the group of killer whales that Aodisai relied on has not encountered such a case. When Aodisai also made the same sound as them and communicated with them without hindrance, the situation seemed to have changed. Does this mean that when they can communicate, the killer whales will regard them as the same kind. In any case, Daisai, who had been wandering alone for a while, slowly integrated into the group and played its strengths in this group. This choice was not only puzzling, but perhaps even the killer whale itself found it difficult to explain why he left his happy family and chose to embark on a journey after being able to live independently. However, he chose to leave the group, which meant that he didn't want to stay in the group. Even if he was floating aimlessly in the ocean, it was better than being trapped in the same place. That would make him feel pain. As for what can satisfy this killer whale, there is no answer for the time being. People only see that he keeps wandering and his strength keeps getting stronger, but they can't know what his demands are. If he knew about this request one day, perhaps he would be able to solve the mystery of this killer whale leaving the group. In fact, the killer whale named Daisai by humans was different from other killer whales from the beginning of its birth. First of all, he was extremely talented. There were some things that he seemed to be born with. Even if he didn't know them, he would be able to grasp them very quickly. It had a steady and quiet personality, unlike other little killer whales who loved to play around, and it would not act coquettishly towards its mother. He quit drinking milk quite early. He was able to hunt fish by himself when he was very young. He also knew how to avoid danger and marine garbage. In the eyes of other killer whales, he was very unsociable because he did not make friends and did not play with everyone. No one had heard his voice, which meant that when he left, his relatives could not find him based on his voice unless he came back on his own. For a killer whale who left on his own initiative, although his original companions would regret it, they would not be too sad because they knew that the killer whale had just gone out to wander and would not be associated with death. Killer whales that have grown up to a certain extent will not die so easily. The newly integrated group had heard Daisai's voice. It was very concise and only sounded when necessary, such as when hunting. Other than that, it was very silent. What a coincidence, isn't it? His new companions were also a group of silent cool guys, and their daily conversations were also spoken word by word. To summarize, the daily conversations of the young but brilliant group of cool guys were as follows. Daisai. Somewhere, pray. Leader killer whale, let's go. Main killer whale, charge. During the hunting process, leader killer whale, gather, charge. Or, get in line, charge again. This is the case when dealing with large prey. It is necessary to gather forces together. When dealing with prey, such as seals, there is another set of strategies. As said before, passing whales do not rely on echolocation when hunting mammals. They rely on the sensitivity of their own senses, and Daisai's senses are quite keen. He can always find where the prey is, especially seals. Maybe this is also where the killer whale brothers want him. After all, his strength is really outstanding. Of course, killer whales are quite affectionate. After getting along for a long time, they will also treat Daisai as a real companion and never leave him. At present, they have lived together for a while and seem to get along well. After all, the cool guys will not quarrel over a small matter. Quarrel and silence. They choose silence. Recently, this group of killer whales came to live in a water area near the land, where there is a considerable variety of food. In a calm afternoon, the sun shone on the sea, making the green sea sparkling. The color of the seawater in each area of the world is different, and here it is slightly green. A fat bearded seal appeared in the shallow sea. Maybe he thought that the shallow sea would be relatively safe. He was still vigilant at first as he turned his body in the sea, and then he slowly relaxed his vigilance. This opening statement means that the bearded seal is already the prey of the killer whales. 6 notorious passing whales, 2 of which are responsible for creating waves around the bearded seal to block the other side's line of sight. Being surrounded by predators made the bearded seal very uneasy. It looked left and right and didn't know where to escape to. A killer whale nearby quietly hid its dorsal fin, waited for the opportunity, and rushed straight at the sea level. Its head slammed into the bearded seal's abdomen, and suddenly the bearded seal couldn't move. Another killer whale came to the bearded seal's side and swung its tail. Suddenly, there was a crash, and the water splashed more than 2 meters high. Then the rest of the killer whales also came to fan, and with the bearded seal as the center, the 5-meter radius was disturbed by them. The seal has long been in their bag, and they can eat it if they want. The killer whales hunted leisurely until the prey was completely dead, and there was no trace of struggle, and then they began to enjoy the food. The way killer whales bite their prey is very special. They know very well how to use the weight of the prey itself to achieve the purpose of tearing it apart. For example, when they pick it up and throw it hard, the seal's stomach is torn open. Ao Daisai stepped forward to catch the other half of the seal's body and tore a piece of meat close to the belly. It was almost all fat. The taste made him unable to stop, and he felt that it was very delicious. Sharing prey is a killer whale's virtue. Even if they can eat a seal by themselves, they won't do it. If any killer whale does this, no one will be friends with him. And through word of mouth, this killer whale realizes a real social death. 6 killer whales silently finished eating a seal, but obviously it was not enough to fill their stomachs. They had to move on to the next prey. It was a gray whale cub that they had locked onto from the beginning. It was not far away, and unfortunately, they first met the unsuspecting bearded seal on the road. The killer whales, who were eclectic, naturally accepted the delicious food that was delivered to their door. Hunting the cubs of large whales required a more perfect strategy and the determination to endure loneliness. Although the killer whales are very naughty when they play, and the noise seems to be able to overturn the whole ocean, they're very serious when they hunt. As the main force, the 3 killer whales keep up with the gray whale mother and son at the fastest speed and harass the mother whale. The rest of the killer whales wait for an opportunity. Once the little gray whale comes down from the mother whale's back, they immediately drag the little gray whale into the deep sea and drown it. In order to speed up the process, they will create surging waves around them, which is their strength. Compared with other killer whales that eat fish, the passerby killer whales that kill young whales seem so cold and cruel, but they don't feel that there is anything wrong with it. Not to mention that it is just a baby whale. As long as there are enough members, even adult whales have to be careful. Ao Daisai, who is very young, is not the main force this time. He is responsible for dealing with the little whale. When his companions and the mother whale are fighting, the little whale is thrown away from the mother by the waves they create, and it is time for the killer whales to party. Ao Daisai bites the tail of the little gray whale and drags it under the water. As long as there is enough time, the little gray whale will drown. However, not every hunt goes so smoothly. In the long process of hunting, the prey will call for help. They are not only attracting their own kind to come to the rescue, but also attracting the humpback whales in the ocean, which are known as the ocean police. If the humpback whales can be attracted, the cubs targeted by the killer whales may have a chance to survive. Otherwise, it will be difficult to escape the hunting order of this group of sea rogues. This may be the lucky day for the gray whale cubs. When the gray whale mother is helpless and is about to despair, the humpback whale comes. The humpback whale, with a body length of 15 meters and a weight of 20 tons, appeared like a hero. His 2 huge pectoral fins were covered with barnacles. If he slapped the killer whale hard, he could send the entire killer whale flying. This adult male humpback whale, with great lethality, seems to have heard the killer whales doing evil in the distance. As the killer whale's mortal enemy, the humpback whale rushed over and flew left and right, setting off huge waves and quickly destroying the killer whale's good deed. No matter how arrogant the killer whale is, it doesn't dare to fight with an adult humpback whale. The calm leader of the cool guy group issued an evacuation order, indicating that he gave up. Ao Daisai, who was biting the little gray whale, no longer insisted. He loosened his mouth and turned around to backstroke back to the group. The humpback whale's pectoral fins just brushed past him. This dodging action seems ordinary, but it is not easy for a killer whale under the age of 10 to do it. The 6 killer whales swaggered off. The humpback whale chased after them for a while. If Qiao Qishi was here, he would definitely say, "Don't chase a cornered enemy, brother." Even a 3-year-old child knows that the mantis stalks the cicada, the oriole is lurking. There are not only 6 killer whales in the surrounding sea area. If the humpback whale just left and the other killer whales continue to hunt, they would still be finished. Because of the humpback whale's pursuit, the cool guy group was disturbed and could only leave the sea area and continue to do evil in other places. The great white shark that came out to look for food met a group of killer whales and swam quickly. If he could speak, his reaction would probably be F***CK, F***CK, F***CK. There was once a documentary that recorded an interesting scene. It said that a group of killer whales hunted a great white shark, and then the great white sharks around them immediately fled 2,000 nautical miles away. However, even if killer whales hunted the great white shark, they would not eat the great white shark's meat. They would only eat the shark's liver. Because shark meat is not delicious, sharks urinate through their skin, and their meat smells like urine. In fact, killer whales are the same for most large prey. They either only eat the shark's liver or the whale's tongue. It seems that there are more places to eat seals. Aodicei still likes to eat seals. When he perceives large prey, he rarely notifies his companions. However, if he encounters a seal, even if it is far away, he will rush over and eat it. Under the subtle influence of Aodicei, their entire group's diet has gradually become closer to seals. After all, they are full from eating seals, so naturally, they will not take the initiative to provoke whales. Xiaoqishi loved to eat seals as well. Even in his dreams, he wanted to hunt one himself. He wants to taste the delicious food in his memory. Unfortunately, his family members only eat fish and whale cubs. It seems that he can only fulfill his wish when he grows up. The migration season is coming again. Yulashanda silently added 1 year to his age. He is 5 years old this year. He decided to go out and explore the 4 oceans in 2 years. Why 2 years later? Because Yulashanda's aunt is pregnant. She's pregnant this summer, and the baby will be born in 1.5 years. When the time comes, his departure will not be so difficult for this small family to accept. Yulashanda swore that after the baby is born, he will work hard to take care of it for a period of time. It seems that the first birth of a killer whale is more difficult to survive. He hopes that his existence can reverse this sad fate. The author has something to say. The nutrient solution is coming. By the way, there are almost 100,000 bottles. Tomorrow, I will update twice carat W carat. Chapter 82. Under the care of his relatives, Yulashanda's 5 years passed very quickly because he didn't have to worry about anything. As the family's favorite, and even the entire species' favorite, he grew up leisurely in the ocean. Except for occasionally missing life on land and feeling a little sad because of the memories of the past, Xiaoqishi was optimistic and positive, full of hope for the future. The vast and mysterious ocean was home to so many different kinds of marine life. Even the most technologically advanced humans had never seen the ocean in its entirety. Hence, there were so many things in the ocean that were worth exploring. Xiaoqishi was eager to try her hand at it and was fascinated by it. The age of the little killer whale is 1 to 5 years old. Generally speaking, they learn language and life skills from their relatives. This is a slow process because the killer whale group has too many cultures to be familiar with. Since the Pliocene, about 5 million years ago, killer whales have been found in the ocean. Killer whales have lived in the ocean for at least 500 centuries. What they have seen and heard in these 500 centuries and their life experience have all been passed on to their next generation through inheritance. Xiaoqishi has grown up from a baby in a suit to a little boy in a suit in 5 years. But he has only glimpsed the tip of the iceberg of killer whale culture. First of all, he has to clear the killer whale's name of cruelty. Too many humans label killer whales as tyrants, thinking that they are heinous for killing close relatives and mammals. But think about it. Why did killer whales become the overlords of the ocean? Is it because they were born to be overlords? Of course not. Powerful forces also need an evolutionary process. Xiaoqishi thinks that whether it is the animal world or human society, the competition for survival is everywhere. If the killer whale is docile and peaceful and does not fight, Then its body will evolve, and some advantages will slowly disappear, such as combat effectiveness. Generation after generation will be weaker than the previous generation. Gradually, perhaps the killer whale species will disappear in the long river of history and no longer exist. It can only be said that no matter who ascends to the first position, they will be labeled as cruel. The killer whale became the overlord of the ocean step by step. Of course, killer whales don't care what humans or other marine animals think of them, because the ocean world is not a utopia. It is just a place outside the law where the strong prey on the weak. There was only one law that killer whales abided by, and that was the unshakable law of nature. Everything in the world must abide by it. On this afternoon, the killer whale army gathered together in a clear, shallow sea to sleep. They kept their heads out of the water and their tails submerged in the water. This was the most comfortable way to sleep. The powerful waves that hit the shore returned to Qiao Qixu's body. Now that his weight had reached a certain level, he could no longer be swept away by a wave. The power of the waves was like a massage to him, so he stayed there for a long time. His relatives, who were sleeping nearby, couldn't do anything to him. Not long after they caught him, he ran away again and refused to sleep obediently. Qiao Qixu. Every killer whale has its own hobby. I like massages. What's wrong? He hoped that his relatives would respect his preferences. It was just a massage and nothing out of the ordinary. Compared to her uncle, Qiao Qixu felt that she was an invincible, obedient child. Her uncle was 16 years old this year. Last year, when her aunt married another family, her mother-in-law also found a partner for her uncle. Her uncle was very wild, and what he did almost shattered Qiao Qixu's worldview. It was like this. Qiao Qixu saw her uncle mating with a young female killer whale and seamlessly showing his love to a young male killer whale in the other group. Soon, the two young male killer whales were lingering around the female killer whale. They were in the sea with their bellies close to each other for a while, and they were slowly circling around each other, showing off their long and cute tails fluttering on their lower abdomens. The reason why it was described as fluttering was that it was indeed slender, and like the huge body of the killer whale, it was an amazing existence. But it was not ferocious, and the white and clean color made it difficult for people to associate them with sex for a while. After all, the killer whale looked so cute. Even if these two males were really messing around, and they were doing it in front of their mating partner or sister, it seemed that no killer whale felt that they were doing it wrong. Were they used to it? That's not it. Qiao Qixu must correct the name of her group. Not all killer whales mess around. Most killer whales are very conservative, and their sexual concepts are very traditional. But it is true that some killer whales are more unrestrained. They are not only good with the opposite sex, but also with the same sex. If mating was seasonal, then some of the male killer whales' dates could happen anytime and anywhere. Maybe on the way to migration, they can contact each other through whispering and then temporarily leave the large group for a few hours to go to the world of the two whales. Some unrestrained killer whales don't even leave the large group and do it directly next to them. On the abdomen of male killer whales, there is no reproductive fissure that can be entered, which means that the entanglement between them will not be the same as that of the opposite sex. The happiness between the two whales is built on whispering and sticking to each other. It seems that they only need to touch to start a happy journey. They can also reach the peak by fantasizing about the handsome older brother or younger brother they like. Even when they miss each other, they can be happy as a killer whale. This is a killer whale with a high IQ, Qiao Qixu, a useless little knowledge every day. Seeing this kind of thing at such a young age, he felt like his eyes were going blind. Sob, sob, sob. Can you give me a pair of eyes that have never seen the world? So annoying. Is Ao Daisai also so big? The little killer whale who misses its lover every day blinks its grape eyes and fantasizes. Ao Daisai must be better than his slag uncle. Feeling a little ashamed, stop. Don't think about it anymore. Uncle went out to play and returned to his home. He should have kept in touch with his handsome younger brother. After all, in the next few days, the smart little killer whale heard his uncle whispering. It seemed to be lingering words of love. Cack Uncle is a slag whale Uncle is so good. Hundreds of nautical miles away, he used ultrasound to tease his younger brother. Annoying uncle. I like it. The handsome younger brother sobbed and immediately sent back a sweet voice of longing. When will we meet again? Anyway, Xiao Qixi understood it this way. After all, he also loved, okay? He could definitely tell what was love and what was gossip. Yulashanda also wants to learn and tell Ao Daisai in the future. However, what if Ao Daisai is not an Antarctic A-type killer whale, but another kind or even another species? These words of love wouldn't be used. Thinking of all kinds of unfavorable possibilities, Yulashanda fell into anxiety. He felt that it was necessary for him to learn a few more languages, at least to learn the languages of all kinds of killer whales. But where to go to learn? There was no school in the ocean. If he rashly contacted a killer whale of another species, it would not pay attention to him at all, right? Xiao Qixi was discouraged, but he immediately thought that maybe Ao Daisai still remembered him, and they could still communicate with each other with memories. Work hard to learn the language, come on. Other whale species in the past would occasionally make some unfamiliar sounds, and he would probably be able to learn it after listening to it more. Yulashanda, I'm learning. On the first day of deliberately learning, Yulashanda concluded after class. Please, can you say one more word? He was very helpless. Other types of killer whales didn't like to talk. They were very silent and quiet. Unlike their group, which was as noisy as a vegetable market every day, they needed to block out some useless fart sounds. A certain killer whale brother who liked to post in his circle of friends. Hit by an arrow and fell to the ground. What's wrong? What's wrong? Can't you record your beautiful life? Only by speaking more would one be able to make more friends. A man of few words would have no friends at all. Cool guys, huh? Are you teaching us how to do things? The group of wandering cool guys were still continuing their travels. Even if they were aimless, they were still having fun. Occasionally, adult killer whales would go out for a stroll for a while. As for what they were going to do, everyone knew. Sometimes, they were going to pursue female killer whales. Even passerby whales had a need to reproduce. And the objects they chose were naturally of the same kind, such as the passerby whale family led by a female. Adult male killer whales stayed in this family for a short period of time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then left each other and returned to their own group. Killer whale couples in the ocean were so casual, fully interpreting the meaning of the word good meeting and good parting. Did this mean that they didn't say anything affectionately? It didn't seem to be the case. After mating, they would always remember each other's voices. In the future, when they met again in the sea, they would still be able to recognize each other immediately. When they needed help, male killer whales were also duty-bound. Of course, this kind of time was rare because everyone was so strong. For the killer whale marriage model, Xiao Qixi felt that this was a way of love. Although the meeting was so short, and we were not together for 99% of the time in the long years, it did not prevent me from holding the greatest kindness and love for you. I will always remember you and travel to every corner of the ocean with a deep impression of you. If one day we meet on a narrow road, please believe that it will be a beautiful miracle for me. The big tail set off a wave, and the sleeping killer whale swam back to the deeper sea. The playful little killer whale dived into the bottom of the sea. He was already able to eat all kinds of fish, and he found a devil fish in the sand. He pulled the other party up and then fanned the sea with his tail. The poor devil fish was like a kite, staying in the air for a short while, and then fell back to the sea. Uncle shamelessly ate the devil fish that nephew Gu knocked out, and made a whining sound to express his gratitude. Isn't that cheap? Xiao Qixi floated up to look for the fish, but she couldn't find it for a long time. She was stunned. Where is my fish? Whine. He swam to his mother. Mom, have you seen my fish? The mother killer whale circled around the little baby twice, and she didn't seem to know what to do. Fat Tiger's mother, who was unable to choose between her brother and her son, said, Mom will catch fish for you. Whine. Xiao Qixi swam to her grandmother again. Grandma, have you seen my fish? The wise and kind older female killer whale did not cover up for her son, and she soon told the little killer whale that his fish was eaten by his uncle. Good heavens! Xiao Qishi was suddenly angry. Bad uncle, how could you bully your nephew like this? The subadult killer whale, which was also quite heavy, rushed to his uncle angrily, wanting to fight with him. The young male killer whale blinked and used his skillful swimming skills to avoid the little killer whale's pursuit. He thought he could do it. After all, Nephew Gu was still so young. How lethal could he be? It wasn't until his small waist was hit that he realized that he had underestimated the enemy. He whined and begged for mercy like an uncle. Xiao Qishi, it's useless to beg for mercy. Spit out my fish, spit it out. Uncle, I won't spit it out. Two male killer whales, one big and one small, were fighting with each other in the sea or playing around. The drone took pictures of their happy moment, and, at the same time, it guessed that the big killer whale was teaching the little killer whale fighting skills. Xiao Qishi, bullshit, it's obvious that I'm chasing after Uncle Dog. With a crash, another devil fish was thrown into the sky from the sea. It was the mother killer whale. Her big tail was full of strength, making the devil fish fly higher and die faster. Xiao Qishi and his uncle heard the sound and swam to the place where the fish fell. Xiao Qishi was full of confidence. You've only swum for 16 years. What are you going to use to compare with me? What are you going to use to compare with me? He caught the devil fish in his mouth, turned around, showed his uncle his back, and swam away proudly. The pregnant ant watched them play and happily move her muscles and bones in the water, stretching and so on. Her belly was already showing. Looking down from the air, her back was much thicker, which was the basis for humans to judge that she was pregnant. In November, the weather in Antarctica was about to warm up, and the frozen sea was restored to a dark blue. At this time, the Antarctic penguins had suffered a winter of snow and were hungry. They needed to go to the sea to find food until March or April of the next year. They were full and lined up to go inland to find a partner. When the killer whale army happily returned to Antarctica for the summer, a large number of migratory birds were flying above them. Large or petite migratory birds fed on small fish in the sea. They had the skill to dive into the sea to catch fish, but they had to be careful to avoid the killer whales. Otherwise, they would not only not catch fish, but also become the killer whale's food. The birds were so small that the killer whales were really not picky. Xiao Qishi had never eaten birds because he had Mao Mao. He had never liked to eat birds because they were all bones and feathers. There was nothing delicious. During the migration, they liked to follow fishing boats because the fishing boats knew where there were schools of fish. They didn't know that fishing boats also liked to follow killer whales. Where there were killer whales, there were schools of fish. Both sides. Smart killer whales actually didn't like human fishing boats. They seemed to know that these big boats would take away a lot of fish in the sea, and over time, their food would be short. In some areas, killer whales were very thin and small. In addition to environmental pollution, it was mostly because there was not enough food around. When the marine environment was not good enough, the fish would naturally decrease, and more than half of it would be divided by humans. The killer whales would be hungry. Therefore, it was not surprising that groups of killer whales attacked fishing boats in some areas of the sea. In the end, it was just that the killer whales were angry. They didn't want these fishing boats to catch fish again. At present, the Antarctic seawater was clear and the ecological environment was good. Xiao Qishi. Xiao Penghu, am back again. The ringed seal is waiting for me. He was bragging. At his current age of 5, he certainly couldn't hunt seals alone, but it didn't prevent him from having great dreams. What if a blind cat catches a dead mouse? Go out more often, there will always be a chance. 5 years old was not young. Some killer whales went out to wander at the age of 6, which showed that their bodies were also quite big, no longer small. However, the parents of killer whales were very doting on their children. Wherever they went, they would not relax their vigilance until they were about 10 years old. Yulashanda, who had experienced another migration, was roughly 5.5 years old, far from 10 years old. At this time, Ao Daisai, who was following his alien brothers in the 4 major oceans, was 8 years old. 2 years of wandering life had completely erased the traces of him that did not belong to a passing whale. Maybe he never applied to a certain label. Who knew? Wandering seemed to have no purpose, but there was always some kind of persistence, which made him not choose a stable life, but continue to search, until he found the results. As for where to go and what kind of results to look for, not to mention Ao Daisai, every animal in this ocean only thought about today, the next meal, and the farthest was no more than a week. Except for Yulashanda, his thoughts could fly up and down for 5,000 years and swim freely in the endless universe. This was his advantage, but also his distress. It was so painful to miss a lover who he didn't know if she still existed. Every time this happened, he would pray that Ao Daisai would not remember the past. With wisdom, he could use various methods and reasons to relieve himself and relieve the pain of missing. How could the one-track-minded Ao Daisai understand the principle that the moon was cloudy and the sun was dim? How did Ao Daisai, who loved Yulashanda like his life, spend every minute without his partner by his side? Therefore, it was better not to have memories, Xiao Qishi thought. In a vast and boundless ocean, it was better not to think about such sad things in the long and peaceful days. Thinking about the recent happy events, learning small goals, and so on, would make him happier. This time, there would be another migration, and the baby in his aunt's belly would be born. Xiao Qishi was looking forward to it. During his aunt's pregnancy, he was very motivated to learn, and had been learning the language of other types of killer whales. This was the hope he kept for himself. But those buddies spoke very little. They didn't even use the echolocation system, which led to the whereabouts of the passerby whales and ocean-going whales, which were very unpredictable. They were very mysterious. After learning the language, Xiao Qishi had also met these groups head-on. He summoned up the courage to climb over the obstacles and came to their surroundings to find a sense of existence. Hello, handsome brothers, where are you going in a large group? Passerby whales or ocean-going whales? Indifferent. Alisanda smiled and said, Sob, 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 there's a cute little killer whale here. Look, it's turning around for its brothers. Passerby whales or ocean-going whales? Indifferent. No matter how Xiao Qishi tried to find a sense of existence, the other types of killer whales were indifferent to his cuteness. Yulashanda, who was angry out of humiliation, knock. Is it because I'm not cute enough? You guys don't know how to appreciate it. In fact, you can't blame them. How can different types communicate? If people of different species can hook up with each other, wouldn't it be a mess? Yulashanda, who is swearing. Forget it. I just hope that Ao Daisai is also an Antarctic A-type killer whale. If it's not, it's over between them. Cross-species love has no result. The little killer whale escaped to hook up with other killer whales. Although his cuteness did not attract the other party, it attracted his own kind to come and watch. Among them was his naggy uncle. He didn't come to watch, but to take him back to do ideological work. For the next week, every adult killer whale in the family took turns to nag at him, telling him not to go out by himself. He didn't listen. Yulashanda had his own ideas. He felt that there was Ao Daisai first, then there was himself, and then there were his relatives. The order was unshakable. Thinking about it, he felt sorry for his fat tiger relatives. Hey, Xiao Qishi rubbed against his worried mother, and cozily rubbed his mother's head to make her happy. Except for occasionally sneaking out, he was still very obedient. His uncle came over and touched his body with his mouth. His movements were so gentle, without any hint of blame, just love. They loved the little killer whale, baby, unconditionally. To be honest, Alisanda was indeed a cute little fat tiger. Everyone in the neighborhood liked him. Even a strange big brother killer whale liked to play with him. When there were people of the same clan looking after the baby, the relatives of the little killer whale would relax a little and even leave the baby to the other party and go out to hunt. This was enough to see that killer whales were very assured of their own clan. After all, no killer whale would refuse to help when looking after the child. Xiao Qishi also liked to go out to play with the strange, handsome killer whale brother, but usually his slag uncle would follow at this time. Sometimes he would hook up with his handsome killer whale brother. So angry. Fortunately, the handsome killer whale brother accepted the commission to take care of him, not to fall in love. Perhaps it was because he was too cute. The handsome killer whale brother couldn't take his eyes off him, and then ignored his slag uncle who didn't do proper business. Uncle blinked his grape eyes. Hey, he felt so wronged. What was hooking up? It was obviously normal social behavior. Killer whales were very gentlemanly. If a killer whale sends an ambiguous signal to another killer whale and the other party ignores it, then forget it. Yulashanda, you killer whales who say love to play so fresh and refined. Anyway, among the killer whales that Xiao Qixi came into contact with, it was rare to see someone like his uncle. Please don't be genetic. He didn't want to be like his uncle, who was full of playboy temperament. At first glance, he didn't look like a good whale. Several killer whales took their beloved babies out for a swim and had a lot of fun. Soon after, they received a signal to eat at home, and they swam back happily. In order to reward the killer whale who helped take care of the child, the killer whale could also share food. Consciously taking care of the old, weak, sick, and disabled killer whales will allow the pregnant killer whale to eat more food. In fact, pregnant killer whales can still hunt until they are about to give birth, and their movements will slow down. But this does not affect her relatives' willingness to take care of her. As a child, Xiao Qixi was also treated well, but in daily life, he could catch fish and shrimp to fill his stomach. In this case, relatives would still worry that he would not be full, so they often brought food to his mouth and started feeding him. This was equivalent to a human primary school student being fed by his grandmother. Xiao Qixi, who had the mind of an adult, thought, "Isn't this making things difficult for me, fat tiger?" Of course, this was not impossible to solve. At the next meal, he would pretend that he was eating very hard. Although the IQ of killer whales was high, could it be higher than the tricks of humans? The real fat tiger vs. the fake fat tiger. The fake fat tiger won, unsurprisingly. In this kind of life, Xiao Qixi waited and waited, growing up and waiting, and the birth of his younger brother and sister came first. After a year of summer, his aunt, who had been waiting with a big belly for 18 months, gave birth. He didn't know if the expectant mother was nervous when she gave birth. Anyway, Xiao Qixi was very nervous. He was afraid to see a bad scene, afraid that sadness would come to his small family. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. The female killer whale who gave birth for the first time successfully gave birth to a pair of rare twin killer whales in the middle of January under the bright sun. The whole family was very happy, and the same people gathered again to congratulate them. Xiao Qixi saw the big scene when he was born again. A week later, the killer whales crowded around left. Xiao Qixi got under the belly of the little killer whale and blinked to confirm the gender of the two little killer whales. Oh, he had a younger brother and sister. The newborn killer whale suit was dark gray, far less distinct than Yulashanda's black and white, but the chubby three-headed body was still very cute. Wah wah wah. Yulashanda made a sound of wanting to raise. When his aunt was breastfeeding, he stood by the side and watched without blinking. The mother killer whale's milk was rich in nutrients and fat, and it would not melt in the sea. The little killer whale blinked its small eyes and swallowed the milk beside its mother. The sweet and fragrant look made Yulashanda want to eat it too. No, Yulashanda had been drinking milk for a year, and it was enough. When he stopped drinking milk, he took the initiative to stop drinking milk. He felt that his body no longer needed to absorb the nutrition of milk to grow, so he refused to drink milk. The mother killer whale, Ada, couldn't do anything about her son. After a long time of breastfeeding, she stopped trying to feed him. It was just that feeding milk had been changed to feeding meat. Wasn't it better than drinking milk? Xiao Qixi, wah wah wah, don't say it, childhood shadow. The small family suddenly had 2 baby killer whales, and it was inevitable that they were a little busy taking care of them. Xiao Qixi, who used to be doted on at home, obviously felt that she was being raised. Okay, the author has something to say. Yulashanda wants to raise baby killer whales, and I want to raise Yulashanda. Ao Daisai want to. Caret W, caret there will be another update at 6 o'clock this afternoon. The current nutrient solution is 120,000 bottles, and we will meet as soon as possible. Chapter 83. Xiao Qi, who regained his freedom, breathed the air of freedom. It was very sweet. However, freedom was freedom. Recently, even if the family members did not keep an eye on him, he did not leave the house. Because he liked his younger brother and sister too much. The little teardrop-shaped killer whale, what a cute thing. After drinking milk for a few days, it grew round. It was different from its deflated shape when it was born. Now, it was like two balloons that had been blown up full and round. How could Yolashanda be willing to go out to play? He wanted to see his younger brother and sister. His younger brother and sister were always hidden by his aunt on the pectoral fins. Of course, because it was too hard to take care of two little killer whales, one of them was taken care of by Xiao Qi's mother. Congratulations. So Xiao Qi was really left alone. Except for his uncle who occasionally took care of him, the other killer whales did not care about him at all. Why was that? Because the family had entrusted the responsibility of taking care of him to his uncle. And his uncle was a fool. He was still at the age where he wanted to play. Good boy. Let's play together. No matter how cute his younger brother and sister were, there would be a day when he would get tired of them. 2 months later, although the little killer whale was getting cuter and cuter, Xiao Qi had already passed the novelty. He decided to go out to play and come back to see the baby. Leaving home with his uncle, the other party went to find a handsome younger brother or a handsome older brother to flirt with, and Yolashanda found a chance to slip away. Vast and boundless ocean, this baby is coming. The sea in Antarctica was still clear, but their family was about to leave here because the cold season was coming again, and the ice in Antarctica was already expanding. When Xiao Qi came out of the water to breathe, he saw penguins leaving in groups on the ice. They were full and wanted to go inland to find a partner. That was great. Xiao Qi dived into the water. Looking down from the air, his body was 5 to 6 meters long, his body was thick and fat, and behind the straight dorsal fin was a white heart-shaped pattern, which was very eye-catching under the black suit. The cute and handsome killer whale Yolashanda happily swam and rolled in the water. He swam backstroke for a while, and then flipped over. He felt that his swimming skills were invincible. A moment later, Yolashanda flipped his tail out of the water, causing a wave. The next second, his head popped out of the water again, and he opened his mouth to catch the fish that he had slapped out of the water. Ow, ow, he swallowed it directly. He couldn't taste anything, but it filled his stomach. Sob, 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 I want to eat seals. Alisanda, who had no guts, used his echolocation system to find the closest seal. He had done this many times, but he had never acted on it. He could only satisfy his cravings through his imagination. He couldn't find seals lying on the ice. He could only find seals swimming in the water. Seals were also mammals. They would come ashore after swimming in the water for a while. In other words, even if Xiao Qi temporarily found the location, it was very likely that the seal would be gone by the time he rushed over. So Xiao Qi hesitated. The location seemed to be quite far. Should he go over? Hesitating, Xiao Qi suddenly looked down on himself. God, he was 7 years old this year. What was there to be afraid of? His scumbag uncle had been fooling around since he was 7 years old. Yes, he could already get the pleasure of sex at this age, but he was infertile. Xiao Qi, why should I use my uncle as a positive teaching material? He doesn't deserve that wave whale. Of course, Xiao Qi wouldn't go out without saying a word. He used ultrasound to tell his uncle, I'm going to chase a big fish. Sorry, he lied. It's not a big fish, it's a seal. Scumbag uncle, got it. Good luck, baby. Killer whales would give nicknames to their companions and relatives. Yolashanda certainly had his own nickname. It was a very cute pronunciation, and the whole family called him that. Yolashanda also called him that in communication. So the correct translation of his communication with his relatives was, baby blah blah blah. The sentence just now should have been, Uncle, baby is going to chase a big fish. His uncle also had his own nickname. Yolashanda automatically translated it as uncle because he didn't know how to translate his scumbag uncle's name in words. Yolashanda, who had reported his whereabouts to his relatives, happily embarked on a journey to chase the seal. Chow Pong Hu, baby swims left and right. His swimming skills are so good. Woo woo woo, I'm so happy. I've been surrounded by 4 adult killer whales since I was born. Woohoo. Now this suffocating love has finally transferred from me to my younger brother and sister. Happy, Yulashanda used his superb swimming skills to come to the area where the seal was. It was a shallow sea, and the white beach was faintly visible. There were many reefs around. For killer whales, this hunting ground was quite dangerous. Smart seals often hide on the shore in order to avoid the pursuit of killer whales, because seals can survive out of the water, but killer whales are in danger of being stranded on the beach. Yulashanda, who had chased here, stopped nearby and looked at the seal from a distance, thinking, "You're lucky." Yes, he didn't dare to get close. Without his companions around, once stranded, it would be a dead end. However, Xiao Qishi was not willing to let the seal go like this. It was good for him to stay here and feast his eyes, humph. Xiao Qishi stopped in the water and kept muttering in his heart. It was better to be a polar bear. He could go ashore to catch seals. Therefore, when he thought of the past, he wanted to sigh. Because he was very focused and the surroundings were very quiet, Xiao Qishi did not notice anything approaching around him. The sound of water flowing was very common in the ocean, and it could no longer cause waves. So what if something approached him? In this ocean, would any animal dare to attack him? If there was, it was most likely that its head was caught in the shell of a big clam. When a seal faced a killer whale, did it mean that it was safe to be close to the shore? It was not like this. There was a kind of killer whale that knew the stranding tactic. The stranding tactic was a unique skill of the Patagonian killer whale. Its principle was to be familiar with the high tide cycle of the beach, and then the killer whales who dared to risk their lives would use the waves to rush ashore and swim back to the deep sea with the next wave. Therefore, they only had a short 1 or 2 seconds to attack their prey. Overall, it was a very dangerous and wild tactic. Xiao Qishi, a conservative killer whale, would never do this. He was afraid of death. However, he was lucky enough to witness a group of killer whales doing this today. It turned out that the seal that he was eyeing was not scared to the shore by him. Before he arrived, there was already a group of cold-blooded passing whales eyeing him covetously. Like Yulashanda, they were also waiting. The difference was that Yulashanda was waiting in vain and had no next action plan at all. This group of passing whales hiding in the distance were waiting premeditatively. The familiar sound of their breathing when they came up finally attracted Xiao Qishi's attention. The fat tiger raised his head, revealed his eyes, and saw the looming dorsal fins on the surface of the sea. Amazing, the dorsal fins were straight. They were all handsome brothers in suits. However, they were very quiet and did not speak. It did not feel like they were the same kind of talkative people. Xiao Qishi blinked her eyes and thought to herself, should I greet him? However, no matter how stupid he was, he could see that these brothers were obviously in a hunting state. If he spoke rashly, he might disrupt the other party's state. At this time, the sound of crashing came. The tide was rising. The tall waves blocked Xiao Qishi's line of sight and swept away the seal that was waiting by the water. A huge killer whale rode the waves and rushed to the shore at a rapid speed, grabbing the seal that hadn't reacted yet in its mouth. The inertia brought by the behemoth set off countless splashes of water. The movement was very loud. The killer whale's body left the sea and revealed its original face. For a moment, it showed its huge body that was like a mountain. What's more, this was not an adult killer whale. He was only a 10-year-old subadult killer whale. The reason why he had such a huge body was related to the species he belonged to. This non-Patagonian killer whale that used the stranding tactic was Ao Daisai, which came from the Atlantic Ocean and later became a passing whale. He did not know where he learned the stranding tactic, but he was sure that it was not the first time he had used it. Xiao Qishi did not know how to use the stranding tactic. When he saw such a big killer whale stranded on the shore, he panicked. Oh my God, was it worth it for a bite to eat? He was so hungry for the seal, but he did not go forward. Hey, couldn't this guy bear it? Looking at his companions, they all stayed in the distance and did not come up. Was he so cold-blooded? Xiao Qixi looked at the eye spot of the stranded killer whale again. It seemed a little different from his own, so he was sure that the other party was not an Antarctic A-type killer whale. Maybe it was an ocean whale. Their companions were stranded and did not come to rescue them. Was the Brotherhood of the Ocean Whale Group so plastic? But it was also possible that their tonnage was too heavy and they did not dare to go forward. Xiao Qixi was okay. He should be about 2 tons now. He could not bear to see the big killer whale stranded, so he bravely swam up. Being chivalrous was his lofty dream. Today's good deed was to rescue the stranded big killer whale. Yulashanda, go. The kind and lovely Yulashanda rushed up. The water level where the other party was stranded was still manageable for him because he was short. He used his own body to push against the other party's body and used all his strength, hoping to push the other party back into the sea. Otis, whose head was on the other side, felt that something was poking him. He immediately turned around with the poster in his mouth, revealing a pair of big grape-like eyes. Yes, no matter what kind of killer whale it was, their eyes were like big, purplish-black grapes. The killer whale, named Ao Daisai by humans, stared quietly at Xiao Qixi, and the seal shook its body in his mouth, not dead yet. Yulashanda, who was working hard, was slapped by the seal's tail, making him confused and greedy. It was a seal. Ah, slurp, slurp, slurp. No, wake up. Fat Tiger Joe, now is not the time to be greedy. Yulashanda, who was angered by his own nonsense, continued to push the stranded killer whale hard. The killer whale, who was meddled in other people's business, seemed to understand his intentions and then remained indifferent, because he did not need to be rescued. In a while, the waves would rush up again, and Ao Daisai could return to the sea with the help of the waves. He was familiar with such a trick. This time, it was to demonstrate to his companions, so that his companions could also learn this hunting tactic. However, this subadult killer whale, who came out of nowhere, seemed to be sympathetic and anxious about his experience. Otis, who was cold and silent, blinked his eyes. It was rare for him to be confused. He wanted to tell the other party not to be afraid and that he would go back in a while. But Ao Daisai was not used to speaking, and this killer whale was not his own kind, nor was it passerby whale. The other party was a different kind of killer whale. There was no possibility of them communicating. Xiao Qixi, who says it's impossible? Xiao Qixi was very anxious. He was not familiar with this coast and did not know when the tide would come. What if it did not come for a long time? Knowledge changed fate. The various languages he had been learning in the past finally came in handy today. Was his brother an ocean whale? The other party did not respond. No, maybe he was, but he did not understand this dialect. Was his brother a passerby whale? Well, there was no response. Xiao Qixi tried again and was almost desperate because there were too many killer whale dialects. Even if he could speak them, he did not know which one it was. And he did not know if his pronunciation was accurate. After all, it was his first time using it. Feeling that the tide was coming, Ao Daisai, who was holding the seal in his mouth, reminded him. The careless voice was deeply engraved in Xiao Qixi's mind. It could be communicated. However, this big killer whale brother meant, let's go, silly. The author has something to say. Ciao, ciao. Silly? Silly? It must be my translation device that made a mistake. The second watch of the 100,000 nutrient solution is here. By the way, I have built a genuine communication channel. If you're interested, go to Super Talk to find it. Are you planning to kill me with cuteness? Chapter 84. Xiao Qixi almost suspected that there was a problem with his translation. Shouldn't he be praised as a little hero for daring to come up to rescue the other party? How could he be called silly by this big killer whale? He didn't believe it, so he wasn't angry for a while, just at a loss. Besides being silly, what did it mean to go? Go where? Wasn't he stranded now? He pushed hard. Go. Xiao Qixi pushed, and he actually pushed. However, this was not his credit, but because a tide rose and the water level in the area they were in suddenly rose. The beached killer whale with the seal in its mouth smoothly turned a corner and swam towards the ocean. The rising water level also lifted Xiao Qishi's body. At this second, he finally knew why this big killer whale called him silly, because the other party knew that the tide would rise. Was this the magical stranding tactic? Yulashanda wondered if he was meddling in other people's business. He blinked his eyes and swam back to the sea with the other party. At the moment when he was completely safe, the big killer whale next to him was shining in Xiao Qishi's eyes. Oh, so handsome, so wild, so unruly a killer whale, such a handsome big brother killer whale. Could it be Ao Daisai? Yulashanda, who was lustful, shamelessly swam with the other party to the other party's group, where there were still a few killer whales waiting. Ao Daisai apparently found that the silly and cute silly was following him, and according to his IQ, he came to the conclusion that this little killer whale had taken a fancy to the seal in his mouth. He was not hungry now. According to convention, this seal should be rewarded to his companions who learn tactics to encourage them to try new tactics. However, this little killer whale just stepped forward and tried to rescue him, which seemed to have left a different impression on Ao Daisai. Although he didn't need to be rescued at all, he was also not interested in making friends. What's more, this was an exotic little killer whale that even stuttered when speaking. But perhaps Ao Daisai thought of his own experience. He himself was an exotic killer whale that had wandered thousands of miles from the Atlantic Ocean to this place. Here you go. After thinking about it, Ao Daisai bit the seal to death, as if to get rid of the little killer whale's entanglement. It let the seal go. A fat seal was stuffed into Xiao Qishi's mouth. Xiao Qishi was startled, but not startled. She was pleasantly surprised. Is this for me? Really? Yulashanda stared at the seal so hard that her eyes almost popped out. An entire seal. Happiness came too suddenly. But why? Yulashanda held the seal in her mouth and was about to eat it when she froze. What was she doing? This big brother killer whale has so many companions waiting to eat. It's not easy to catch the seal in a suicidal way. How shameless can I be to accept the other party's prey? Woo-woo. I'll return it to you. I'm not hungry. The cutest killer whale in the entire ocean shook his head in the water and then returned the seal. Take it and give it to your companions to eat. The seal that was not dead yet struggled in front of Ao Daisai for a while, and he bit it. Even if he was smart, he couldn't ask, "Since you're not hungry, then why are you following me?" The simple-minded big brother killer whale took the seal in his mouth and went to find his companions. Xiao Qishi happily followed him again because he had some hope in his heart that this big killer whale was likely to be the partner that he had been longing for. In a while, he would communicate with the other party. The 10-year-old Atlantic type 2 killer whale and the 7-year-old Antarctic type A killer whale are quite different in size. One big and one small returned to the group of whales. Ao Daisai gave the food to his companions. His cool companions noticed the existence of another killer whale, and suddenly 5 pairs of big grape eyes all looked at Xiao Qishi. Oh, it's a local killer whale in Antarctica, not his own species. But it's very cute. It's black where it should be, and white where it should be. It's a good figure, smooth and clean, without barnacles or yellow spots. At first glance, it's a mommy's baby resident whale. The leader of the cool group. Who is this? Killer whales are an animal that is very good at asking questions. Their curiosity is one of the best among marine animals. Ao Daisai. I don't know, a strange killer whale. Another member. His intention? Is it good or hostile? What does he want to do? Since it's a guy brought back by Ao Daisai, of course, Ao Daisai has to answer the questions. These are what they want to know. If Ao Daisai's IQ is higher, he will find out why this group of killer whales didn't care so much about him at the beginning. The discussion around him is not as much as a strange killer whale. However, the taciturn Ao Daisai still joined the discussion. He rescued me when I was stranded. Such a meaning can be easily expressed by killer whales, and even many marine animals can. For example, they know that humpback whales will help victims, and they will tell their own kind. If there is danger, they can ask for help from humpback whales. In the future, This little knowledge will be passed down like a culture. Xiao Qi, who is waiting on the side, can almost understand the language of the 6 big killer whales, not because he is knowledgeable, but because he is smart and knows how to integrate. But can the brothers not discuss him directly in front of him? It's so shameful. The group of cool guys, who usually cherish their words like gold, stopped communicating after understanding the simple information of this strange little killer whale, and they began to share the seal. The leading killer whale tore open the seal's body, and each killer whale ate a part. Seeing the seal meat floating in front of him, Xiao Qi couldn't help it, and he took a bite. Oh, it's good. It's the taste in my memory. By the way, will this bite cause public anger? No, it shouldn't, right? Yulashanda observed everyone while eating and found that they were all big shots with a big picture, and they didn't care about the existence of small thing like him. After all, the big brother killer whale who knew how to use the stranding tactic just now wanted to give him the whole seal. What's the big deal about taking a small bite now? Yulashanda, come on, take another bite. In view of his curiosity, what kind of killer whale was this group of killer whales? So when everyone came forward to bite the seal, he secretly observed it like a dog. He found that these 6 big killer whales were so big and handsome. 5 of them were the same kind of killer whales, and the killer whale that knew the stranding tactic was another kind of killer whale. They looked similar to him in appearance, but a little different. Xiao Qi scratched his head. If these are 2 different kinds of killer whales, how did they come together? Are there killer whales in this ocean like him, who deliberately learned the culture of other kinds of killer whales? Realizing that he still knew too little about killer whales, Xiao Qi couldn't help but sigh. Marine animals are really mysterious, and they're not as simple as human beings think. Thinking about it, he took another bite of the seal, and then found that he had eaten the last piece of meat. Yulashanda, who was embarrassed, made a sound and said, "Seal is so delicious. I want to eat more seal." After saying that, he wanted to cover his mouth with his tail. Oh no, I usually speak too smoothly. Sob, sob, sob. If I act coquettishly in front of a group of strange killer whales, they won't pay attention to me, okay? When they first met, this group of passing whales thought that Xiao Qi was a different kind of killer whale. Now that the other party spoke in a language they could understand, they should be very confused. But fortunately, there were similar examples among their members. Many killer whales probably thought of Ao Daisai, a killer whale that was also from a different species. In contrast, they seemed to be more interested in Xiao Qi because they had never seen such a sweet type of little killer whale. Their kind of killer whales were very silent and didn't know how to act cute. It seemed that they were born without the nerve to please other individuals. The 6 killer whales all received a unified signal. The little killer whale still wanted to eat seals. But knowing that, they didn't take any further action because this little killer whale was not one of their members. Behind the other party was a large group of resident whales, and it was not their turn to take care of it. After eating the snacks, the 6 killer whales swam out and dispersed. Ao Daisai, who was flirted with by a strange killer whale, was silent for a long time. Perhaps he was summarizing his impression of this killer whale. Okay. Ao Daisai finally gave an answer, but the answer didn't seem to be what Xiao Qi wanted. Xiao Qi, who was deeply affected by the art of human language, suddenly broke his crystal heart in half. In his heart, okay, meant so. If this killer whale was Ao Daisai, the other party's perception of him couldn't be just so. Okay. It seemed that he had made a mistake, Yulashanda thought disappointedly, but it was also true. The whole ocean was so big. How could it be so easy to meet? But in the killer whale's mind, okay meant recognition. There was a real chance, not a bluff. If other killer whales got such feedback, he would be very happy to continue to contact the killer whale he liked. Maybe soon he would be able to sleep with the person he liked as he wished. The choice between males didn't have as many concerns as the choice between the opposite sex. Basically, They could linger as long as they were interested in each other. Sometimes romantic encounters only happened in a flash. Cool guy group. Oh ho. There was no real meaning behind it. It was just to express that they were happy to see what was going on. The other passing whales who were forced to listen to the live broadcast also tacitly agreed that there would be a follow-up between them, including Ao Daisai, the killer whale, also tacitly agreed that this killer whale would continue to contact him. The most common method of pursuit was to persevere behind him and then continue to deepen their understanding of each other through ultrasound. Of course, some killer whales didn't care about spiritual communication. They just took a fancy to each other's bodies and the happiness produced when they lingered. The real scumbag killer whales would say goodbye after they were done. They wouldn't be like Xiao Qishi's uncle, who still kept in touch with his little handsome brother. Xiao Qishi. Regular friends are also scumbags. Anyway, he didn't want to be that kind of killer whale with no integrity. Since this handsome killer whale wasn't Ao Daisai, he had no interest. Just think of it as a beautiful encounter in the ocean. He hoped that the other party would be more careful when he used the stranded tactic next time. It would be best if he never overturned. Just at this time, Xiao Qishi's uncle sent a summons. "Baby, where are you? Come back quickly, we should go home." Receiving the summons from relatives, Xiao Qishi didn't dare to delay. She whined and said goodbye to the 6 killer whales. "My family came to find me. Bye-bye, everyone. See you again in the future." If you remember the voice, you will know each other when you meet in the future, especially the killer whale that she had mistaken for. Xiao Qishi said to the other party alone, "Be careful when you catch seals on the shore in the future. Bye." He left just like that. The whole group of cool guys was quiet for a while. Then, after a long time, the leader said the first sentence. "The Antarctic killer whale is indeed a mommy's boy." Ao Daisai, don't be sad. Comforting their companions was the killer whale's strength. They were full of love. Cool guy B. The same kind is the best choice for dating. Let's go Ao Daisai. The killer whale's words for XX were more straightforward. The direct translation was very spicy. Here, dating was used to express that kind of behavior. That kind of behavior between males could not be expressed by mating. Killer whales called it rubbing each other's XX. That's right, it was the word rubbing. They used it very frequently. Some female dolphins in the ocean would rub on the turtle shell to get satisfaction. Turtle. Some whales with barnacles all over their bodies would rub their bodies on stones. Well, they skillfully mastered and used the word rubbing in the action. Cool guy C. That killer whale is quite cute. Ao Daisai can go on a date with him. I like dating. Today's group of cool guys seem to be particularly talkative. Mastering rich adjectives was the killer whale's strength. They would express their feelings and preferences, and they would also create some words to describe other things. For example, all the animals in the ocean, as long as the killer whale saw them, they would give them nicknames. That was why there were a lot of dialects, because there were 1,000 hamlets among 1,000 people, and 1,000 killer whales had 1,000 adjectives for great white sharks. Cool guy D. I also like dating. It's a comfortable feeling. This sentence is for Ao Daisai. Go try it. Of course, this cool guy did not say here, but directly said his nickname. Cute group of killer whales. Cool guy E. I also like dating. The following chat content of Brother ABCD was all dirty and could not be translated in beautiful language. The general idea was to exchange the content of dating, describe their personal experiences, and summarize their feelings and conclusions. For example, which part of the sea the killer whales were cute and enchanting, making the whales unable to forget them. Generally, they would say good things, but they did not mention bad experiences. This was also true. If a group of big men talked behind their backs, it would not look good. Ao Daisai, who started the topic, was as silent as ever. He did not know if it was because he had no experience to share, or because he did not like to participate in such topics. Or perhaps he was still thinking about the little Antarctic killer whale that had left. They had encountered a lot of such romantic encounters in the past few years of wandering in the ocean. Among them, there was no lack of killer whales that liked Ao Daisai, but he always refused. And Ao Daisai did not refuse the silly little killer whale today. Perhaps it was because the other party was very special. He even rushed forward to save him, which was more useful than expressing his love with words. But he was difficult to chase. When asked whether he liked it or not, he just lazily said that it was okay. He thought that they would have a story after that. He did not expect the other party to run away like that. The group of cool guys who were triggered by the chatter mode chatted in the group, and their progress was still not affected. The humans who used drones to track the killer whales simply couldn't know from the images that they were having a dirty conversation with each other. They looked cute and serious. And it was not only these 6 killer whales who were participating. In fact, many of the same kind of killer whales were passively participating in the dirty conversation. Well, cultural inheritance was very likely to be like this. Because of the sh*t that happened between the same kind, everyone knew that the vocabulary increased every day. Xiao Qi, who was trying to swim to his uncle's side, rarely heard the passing whales chat before. Today, so many stories were triggered because of him. He felt so ashamed, and it was a public execution in the channel. He performed a foot stab on the villa on the spot. No, what was the meaning of this group of killer whales? They said it as if he had abandoned them. It was obvious that the other party was not interested, okay? In the end, they said that he was a mommy's boy. Suddenly, the whale body attacked low quality. They were also sharpening their guns. Annoying, 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 a group of big lecherous whales. Yelashanda despised it. He thought it was a serious killer whale, but he did not expect it to be yellow even after being cut. He had the same virtue as his uncle. However, Xiao Qi had not heard the voice of the alien killer whale, which made Xiao Qi curious. What was the killer whale that he admired thinking? Did he sharpen his guns with other male killer whales? Xiao Qi was absent-minded, waiting for the sound to sound, but he did not hear it again. Back to his uncle, he had a good date with the little handsome boy and asked him intimately, "Baby, did you catch the big fish?" The little killer whale that went out to wander around yawned. "Yes, seal meat is delicious." "Uncle Seal." Xiao Qi realized that he had accidentally exposed himself, but it didn't matter. Uncle was easy to fool. Yawn. It was the seal that the killer whales of the same kind shared with the baby. Uncle circled the baby at home twice and expressed doubts. "Our kind generally does not eat seals." Xiao Qi, the baby whale's cute smile gradually froze. Knock. Why'd he fail again and again? Damn it, it must be the fault of the group of perverted killer whales. They said so many perverted things that made him distracted. Fortunately, his uncle did not delve into it and swam home with Xiao Qi. The other party also contacted the person he had just dated on the way. Xiao Qi had always been curious. Uncle was so openly flirty. Wouldn't the other party's handsome younger brother be jealous? In reality, he wouldn't be. Killer whales did not have the emotion of jealousy. Not every killer whale thought about that every day. Killer whales also had sage time. When they were in a Buddhist mood, they would turn off their microphones and live a quiet life. Xiao Qi was very skeptical. Really? But his uncle never seemed to have sage time. He was full of vigor every day. The cute Antarctic killer whale, who was labeled as a mommy's boy, returned to the group in a listless mood and seemed a little unhappy. It was probably because he was missing his partner, and this emotion was particularly prominent today. After thinking about it, Xiao Qi used the dialect of the passerby whales to contact the group of killer whales she had met before. "Big brother killer whale, I have arrived home safely." This was basic etiquette, and there was no other meaning. The voice of the Antarctic little killer whale was sweet and milky, with a different exotic flavor. The group of cool guys who had just despised the other party for being a mommy's boy said in unison, "Ayo, Daisai, go on a date with him." The author has something to say. Cool guys group. "My younger brother is so sweet. I love him so much. Ayo, Daisai. Love will affect the speed at which I catch seals. If you have the ability, don't look for him." Chapter 85. Given that Xiao Qi's social circle is narrow, the 7-year-old has not yet mastered the skill of long-distance one-on-one whispering, which seems to require a certain amount of social experience to master. Simply put, it is necessary to communicate with other killer whales to achieve the purpose of practice makes perfect. Before this, other than communicating with his family members, he had almost never sent any news to the outside world. When he heard that the killer whales who liked to talk dirty were encouraging the killer whale who knew how to use stranding tactics to do something with him, the baby whale, who already had someone in his heart, was ashamed and angry and regretted sending the news. Wow, what kind of whales are these? What made Xiao Qishi vomit blood was that not only the killer whales he had seen, but even other killer whales that he had never seen before also joined in. The nosy passerby whales said, "Ayo Daisai, go find him for a date." They all said so, but this was not brainless following the trend. Killer whales were not such whales, and each of them had their own independent ideas. In fact, they sometimes not only encouraged their companions to accept the pursuit of a suitor with a strong sense of participation, but of course, they also persuaded their companions to reject the suitor. Killer whales, who were much more conservative than dolphins, had a 50-50 probability of accepting a suitor, which was neither high nor low. Rejection was generally because the suitor was not good enough, obviously not pleasing to the whale, or the suitor had a dark history and was a well-known whale in the entire ocean. For example, the kind of killer whale that liked to record its own life, broadcasting its own affairs in the ocean every day. Once it accepted the pursuit of such a guy, there would be no privacy. Forget it. There were thousands of killer whales in the world. Wouldn't it be better to choose a normal one? The passerby whales, who were used to wind and rain, obviously had a good impression of Xiao Qishi, the Antarctic milk whale. Perhaps it was because they had never met such a sweet killer whale brother. Although killer whales would act coquettishly, they would definitely stop at a certain point, and it all depended on their mood. They might whine and act coquettishly 1 second, and the next second, they would ferociously reveal a row of sharp teeth and kill sharks for you to see. Therefore, Xiao Qishi, an artificial sugar maker, was particularly prominent. Sweet, in addition to being sweet, it also had a high EQ and would be liked by killer whales. The passerby whales scattered in various waters did not know that Xiao Qishi was an Antarctic killer whale. Their ears were awakened by the sweet sound, and they started to talk. "I like him." Or, "Where is he? I want to date him." They also asked, "What does he look like?" Xiao Qishi collapsed, thinking, aren't all killer whales similar in appearance? You can tell the flowers from black and white. Usually, Otis was good at using his sharp senses to hunt. He did not use the echolocation system and did not speak much either. This was because doing so would expose his location. Xiao grew to be a lot. Not to mention a place like the South Pole. The strict and serious group of cool guys patched it up for their companion. It was an Antarctic killer whale. Then another killer whale from the group of cool guys patched. Very cute. Go find him. The Antarctic killer whale did not pose much of a threat. It was considered a relatively mild type. Now, this group of passing whales that were interested in the Antarctic killer whale were much more ferocious than the Antarctic killer whale. Xiao Qishi's heart skipped a beat. No way, no way. Could it be that the other party was really going to look for her to do that? Just as he was blushing and his heart was racing with worry, he finally heard a casual reply. "We'll see." Anyway, that was what it meant when it was translated into Chinese. No one knew if the other party took it to heart or if he was just being perfunctory. But in any case, Xiao Qishi heaved a sigh of relief. He was still a child. He didn't want to get involved in such a filthy boy dating incident. Since that day, Xiao Qishi was glad that she hadn't heard any conversation about herself in the ocean for several days. This was the first time that he felt that being silent was really a good habit. Xiao Qishi stayed at home for a few days. He didn't dare to go out, so it was quiet and nothing happened. Then Xiao Qishi's small family, actually, it wasn't small this year. There were 5 big killer whales and 2 small killer whales. Their family of 7 swam together in the direction of the Strait of Malacca. In the past, Xiao Qishi was always surrounded in the middle. Now that he had grown up, if he wanted to swim on the left, he would swim on the left. If he wanted to swim on the right, he would swim on the right. It wasn't a problem even if he was 40 or 50 meters behind. Killer whales were a group of animals that wouldn't embarrass themselves. They wouldn't be exhausted by the journey, so the journey wasn't hard. There would be plenty of time to eat and sleep. After careful calculation, the time spent on the journey was not as much as the time spent on other trivial things. The young man in the suit, who had been quiet for a few days, was restless. While his relatives were taking his younger brother and sister to sleep and had already entered a state of sleep, Yelishanda, who didn't sleep much, opened his eyes sneakily and swam out. There were only 5 people left in the family of 7 because his Uncle Lang was also missing. Xiao Qishi decided to give his uncle a nickname, Master of Time Management. After leaving the base camp, he still stayed in the shallow waters. After the last time he went ashore to save whales, he felt that the shallow waters were not so terrible. In the sand at the bottom of the shallow sea, there were many small snacks hidden. They were shellfish and shrimp that Yelishanda liked. Although the size of these foods was tantamount to eating loneliness for him, he liked it. There were also flatfish and devilfish that liked to hide in the sand. Yelishanda occasionally won a prize. Of course, not all of them were good prizes. Sometimes he would encounter an electric eel. Although the electricity emitted from the electric eel would not cause substantial harm to a killer whale as big as him, it would numb his mouth. However, it would numb his mouth with electricity. To be honest, that kind of numbing feeling was quite satisfying. No wonder dolphins sometimes gathered to suck pufferfish, because the toxins released by pufferfish could numb the nerves. If dolphins only absorbed a small amount of toxins, they could achieve a feeling of floating. In that case, dolphins really did everything. They relied entirely on their pure and lovely appearance to maintain their dolphin image for a long time. Xiao Qishi admired them while opening a shell. Just as he finished eating a shell, he felt a group of big shrimps passing by. He immediately chased after them. Before the group of big shrimps escaped into the crevice of a reef, Xiao Qishi swallowed them into his mouth. He was enjoying the delicious food when he suddenly felt a shadow beside him. He immediately jumped up diagonally and turned around nimbly. What came into Xiao Qishi's eyes was a handsome and huge killer whale. The white eye spots at an oblique angle looked a little familiar. It was him. Xiao Qishi still remembered the other party's nickname and couldn't help but read it out. But what was the other party doing here? There didn't seem to be any other killer whales around. Did they sneak out like him? When Ao Daisai heard his name, he dived a little bit close to the surface of the water, making himself closer to the little killer whale. He also remembered the nickname of the little killer whale because the other party had claimed it in front of him. From then on, he could hear other killer whales calling this nickname in the ocean every day. It kept shouting, it was very noisy. In addition to this nickname, Ao Daisai couldn't understand the language of the Nanjing killer whale. He could only distinguish the voice of Xiao Qishi. From time to time, he used the echolocation system to confirm, and the result always deepened Ao Daisai's impression of Xiao Qishi, mommy whale. It was so big and still liked to follow its mother. Ao Daisai narrowed his eyes and approached the little killer whale who was staring at him blankly. He liked to hear the other party call his name. His brothers were right. The little killer whale's voice was very sweet. She'll whisper. Ao Daisai suddenly put Xiao Qishi between himself and the reef, and his huge body seemed to be enough to cover the other party. Xiao Qishi suddenly blushed. He felt that he couldn't retreat. Behind him was the reef, and in front of him was the other party's body. And this killer whale was too handsome. The other party's appearance suddenly magnified in front of him, causing a great visual impact on him. But this was wrong. His heart belonged to someone else, and it was a sin to look at other people of the opposite sex. Xiao Penghu, calm down. Hey, what are you doing? Xiao Qishi could master face-to-face whispering. Just turn the volume to the minimum, and the sound wave vibration was enough for the big killer whale in front of him to catch. He looked for directions to get out of trouble, but Ao Daisai stuck closer and his intention of not wanting to let him go was very obvious. "Little cutie, how old are you?" Xiao Qishi's shame reached the upper limit. "What little cutie?" "Hey, the baby had a name." Of course, Ao Daisai knew that Xiao Qishi had a name, but he didn't want to shout it because of the risk of exposing information. But this little killer whale seemed to be inexperienced and silly. He approached Xiao Qishi's ear, which was a very small hole, and told the other party his concerns with a very subtle sound wave. His lips brushed against the other party's smooth cheek, and a feeling called joy rippled in Ao Daisai's heart. Was this the joy of dating? Xiao Qishi was stunned when she heard the other party say that it would prevent information from leaking. Anyway, that was what it meant. This killer whale's IQ was really high. But it was also true that this was the reason why most killer whales whispered, because they didn't want to expose themselves. "Why did you come to me?" Xiao Qishi tried to put on an indifferent look and ignore the other party's teasing. "Didn't you not like me?" After saying that, he was ashamed to death. Why did it feel like flirting? "Hey, you should get out of here, I'm going home." Xiao Qishi didn't want to have too much contact with this killer whale, because the other party didn't feel like Ao Daisai at first glance. His Ao Daisai wouldn't be so evil. One moment it was indifferent to him, and the next moment it was flirting with him. The scumbags on the internet were like this. Ao Daisai didn't say that he didn't like it. He swayed his tail and stopped Xiao Qishi with his pectoral fins. "Do you want to go on a date with me?" Even if it was a declaration of love, it didn't sound very serious. Oh no, this wasn't a declaration of love at all. They killer whales didn't have love, they just wanted to have sex. Xiao Qishi, "Hey, no, I'm going home. Can you please let me go?" He swam even more to escape the scene, but he didn't get what he wanted. "Leave me?" Anyway, that's what he meant. Ao Daisai turned over and swam up under Xiao Qishi's belly, blocking the other party's way with his chest. Maybe in his mind, it was clearly this little killer whale who seduced him first. Now he found a chance to be alone and rushed over, but the other party didn't look at him. "What's wrong? Do you want to eat seals?" Ao Daisai stared at the round and cute little killer whale intently. "No, I don't want to eat." Xiao Qishi answered with difficulty. Ao Daisai tilted his head and seemed to be puzzled. Why did he show that he wanted to eat, but answered that he didn't want to eat? I'll catch a seal for you to eat." Ao Daisai dropped a sentence to himself, and regardless of whether Xiao Qishi answered or not, he swam forward on his backstroke, and then turned over to return to his normal position. This feeling reminded Xiao Qishi of Ao Daisai. So whether he should believe it or not, the only thing in the world that can make his heart pound again and again is Ao Daisai. But what if he's wrong? Xiao Qishi is in a dilemma. How should I choose? Follow my heart. Since there is no accurate answer, why don't I eat a seal first? Good heavens, Xiao Qishi spent 2 seconds convincing himself. Of course, he didn't follow for the seal, but to observe the other party closely. Soon after, Xiao Qishi really found some clues. After careful observation, the way this big killer whale swims is similar to his, especially when the other party swims diagonally. The pectoral fins will habitually close forward. Xiao Qishi thought that he was the only one who would do this. His uncles and mothers-in-law don't seem to do this. Sigh, but this doesn't seem to prove anything. I still need to find more evidence, so I have to follow the other party and eat a seal. As for the sense of shame, isn't it normal for animals to do anything for food? What sense of shame? Just eat it and be done with it. Male killer whales don't have reproductive fissures. How could they be taken advantage of? Xiao Qishi thought as he followed the other party. At this time, they were not far from the center of Antarctica, and there was still floating ice on the sea. The targeted seal hid behind the floating ice, its big eyes looking very helpless. He felt danger, but after several investigations, he found that there seemed to be only one killer whale hunting him. So he took the risk to leave the small floating ice and go to the larger ice surface, where it was really safe. However, the moment the seal dove into the water, the incredibly sharp killer whale bit it. The water splashed between them, heralding a fierce game of hunting and being hunted in the water. Soon, blood began to flow out of the wound. This meant that the hunt was coming to an end. The black and white head of the killer whale popped out of the water with a big fat seal in its mouth. Xiao Qixi watched the other party hunt nearby. Although there seemed to be no fluctuations on the surface, she was shocked by the other party's clean and neat hunting posture. Things that he couldn't do were easily accomplished by the other party. Whether he admitted it or not, this killer whale was very good. Ao Daisai swam over and put the seal, which was not dead yet, in front of Xiao Qixi. Feeding a date was not a killer whale's habit. Xiao Qixi didn't know why this killer whale did this. Was it because she had expressed to him that she wanted to eat a seal? Eat. Ao Daisai put the seal in front of Xiao Qixi. This time it was no longer a casual tone, but a little strong. Probably because he had just experienced a cold hunting operation, the other party was still surrounded by a sharp aura. Xiao Qixi shivered and translated, "After eating this seal, you will be my whale." He regretted it. He didn't want to eat anymore, okay? Oh. The baby was not hungry and wanted to go home. Xiao Qixi, who felt the danger, turned around and left, or it would be more appropriate to describe it as escaping. But could he escape? The seal had been caught. Would the notorious passing whale let him leave so easily? Obviously not. Xiao Qixi's head hit a white wall, but it was not a wall, but the chest of the big killer whale. The bastard was blocking his way again. Otis's blocking skills had been honed over the years. At the same time, it was also a kind of talent. He easily stopped the willful and delicate baby whale and stopped it in front of the seal. Eat. The strong aura of the other party made Xiao Qixi breathless. At this time, he was like a student girl who was targeted by the big boss of the society. The other party got a good room and ordered good wine, but he wanted to leave. He was very disrespectful. No one could be blamed for this. He could only blame himself for being greedy. Xiao Qixi's mood changed, and he found that there seemed to be no better way to deal with the current situation than to adapt to the current situation. Whoa. Okay, I'll eat, okay? Why are you so fierce? If you are fierce again, I'll cry for you. Xiao Qixi never dreamed that he would be forced to eat seals one day. He could only say that the world was really mysterious. Ao Daisai stared at the Antarctic little milk whale, who was sniffling and eating in front of him. After several mouthfuls, he still hadn't torn the seal skin. The cool big boss immediately took over this cruel task and tore the seal to make it easier for the other party to eat. Ao Daisai, who looked serious on the surface, whispered to his brothers after helping the other party, "The Antarctic little killer whale can't tear its prey apart." It was similar to the moment when a straight man complained about his girlfriend to his brothers. The cool big boss group, HHHHH the transit whale, what are you laughing at? Yolashanda, who was eating the seal, didn't know what had happened in these few seconds. He was worried that the killer whale would bully him while enjoying the delicious seal. It was really delicious. Just as he was eating very seriously, he felt as if something was gently poking his lower abdomen. Ooh. Xiao Qixi was startled and chirped, indicating that he was startled. What the hell? What was he doing while he was eating seriously? He turned his round body and saw that it was the evil big killer whale that was playing tricks below. Xiao Qixi's mood suddenly exploded. Pervert! Were you touching? The lawless transient whale was not afraid of the little milk whale's questioning at all. He was still so hateful. The meaning he expressed made Xiao Qixi so embarrassed that he wanted to stomp his feet. Oh no, he didn't have feet now. Woo-woo, go away. Wretched whale, don't ask such obscene questions, okay? Xiao Qixi gathered his strength and slapped him with his tail, trying to drive away the perverted killer whale. The battle under the water was on the verge of breaking out, but Ao Daisai didn't join in. Facing the anger of the little milk whale, he just temporarily avoided it. It seemed that he was at ease and didn't take it to heart. This attitude made his opponent feel very annoyed. Little did he know that Ao Daisai was also very depressed. He didn't understand why he was repeatedly rejected. He had a good attitude and even caught a seal, but this little Antarctic killer whale still didn't let him get close. Too arrogant. Ao Daisai continued to complain to his brothers in a whisper. He caught a seal and didn't let him get close. The cool big boss group, an experienced brother, gave a suggestion. Take out your big gun and continue to pester him. After confirming that the killer whale was no longer approaching, Yolashanda put his hands on his hips proudly. If the tiger doesn't show its power, do you think I'm Hello Kitty? He continued to eat and glanced at the pervert while he was at it. Don't come close, I'll slap you again. After a long time, Ao Daisai lazily replied, Forget it. Let him go home after eating. Ao Daisai made this decision. Although the Antarctic little milk whale was very arrogant, he was also very arrogant. If the other party didn't have that intention, he didn't seem to want to show his weak side. The author has something to say. Ao Daisai, my big gun, you can't just look at it whenever you want. The nutrient solution is almost full of 150,000 bottles. It seems that I have to add more tomorrow. Chapter 86. The sun shone on the blue sea, and the quiet ocean current flowed around him. When the big killer whale no longer approached him rashly, Xiao Qixi seemed a lot more at ease. He bit the fat seal meat and ate it bit by bit. In the process, his mind was in a mess. Just now, he was too ashamed of being flirted with, so he couldn't calm down and think at all. After eating, Xiao Qixi finally calmed down and found his logic. First, he didn't hate the big killer whale in front of him, and his eyes were always attracted to him. This must not be an unexpected phenomenon. After all, he had been in the ocean for so long and had seen 8,000 if not 10,000 killer whales. But except for the one in front of him, he had never had a special feeling for any of them. Subconsciously, Xiao Qixi had regarded the other party as Ao Daisai, but there was still some doubt because Ao Daisai was really not such a pervert. So he couldn't help but touch the other party while refusing to get close to him without hesitation. Second, animals don't seem to have a logical chain of thought like humans. Every time they become a new species, they are born like a newborn. Maybe they can only remember their past memories through some kind of opportunity. Under this premise, Xiao Qixi was happy for the other party. It was a new life every time, so there was nothing bad about it, because not everyone was like him, who could look forward with optimism and enthusiasm. If there was really no Ao Daisai, Xiao Qixi could live as a happy killer whale. On the contrary, if Ao Daisai didn't have Yolashanda, the other party would be very sad, very, very sad, and would never understand why they couldn't continue to play together. Xiao Qixi would be very distressed that Ao Daisai couldn't be self-consistent. If the other party was like himself every time and remembered everything, then how could the other party start a new life in the face of a new world and group? So, Xiao Qixi was very glad that he forgot. But what he didn't expect was that although Ao Daisai was reborn and didn't remember everything in the past, there was a deep impression of him in the depths of his soul. Ao Daisai accepted a new world, and although he lived with ease, his heart was very empty. From the moment he could live on his own, he chose to cross the ocean to search for her. Maybe Ao Daisai didn't know what he was looking for, but he would follow his heart and find what he found. Now, the free Atlantic killer whale wanted to get close to the Antarctic milk whale. Cabotin, feeding her, touching her, using all sorts of methods to do so. A normal killer whale would find it difficult to resist this kind of overbearing attack. However, it was clear that Xiao Qixi wasn't normal. She was a sweetheart who had been doted on by her best boyfriend. There was no way she would surrender just because of a couple of seals. After finishing the food, Xiao Qixi wiped her mouth and wanted to leave while wagging her tail, not feeling embarrassed at all. However, an even longer and thicker tail blocked his way. Only then did he realize that the other party could be so long horizontally. Wait, the killer whale, who was taken advantage of for nothing, may be thinking that even if this little cutie doesn't let me touch him, he can at least answer a few questions. He changed his casual attitude and communicated well. Let's talk for a while. Xiao Qixi closed his pectoral fins, full of vigilance against the other party. What do you want to talk about? He had just eaten the other party's food, so he endured it for the time being. He could just chat and not touch. How old are you? Ao Daisai asked for the second time. As a group of people who respect the old and love the young, killer whales also have the concept of age. In their concept, seniority is very important. At the same time, they can judge a lot of things based on age. Killer whales don't use the exact number of words. They have special words to define age. Xiao Qixi means that he is under 10 years old. He is really a little killer whale. Ao Daisai, have you dated other killer whales? The above was beautified information. In fact, in Xiao Qixi ears, it was, have you ever sharpened your gun with other killer whales? Xiao Qixi gritted his teeth and felt that his head was clamped by the big clam shell to stay and chat with the other party. I haven't. But he couldn't let the other party find fault with him and think that he was the kind of killer whale with an unscrupulous private life. However, he didn't want to answer this kind of question anymore. Have you finished chatting? I'm leaving. Do you know how to release it? Ao Daisai didn't let him go and continued to throw out a question. It was obviously so obscene, but the other party asked so seriously. There was no doubt that this was the daily life of some killer whales. They didn't feel that this kind of thing needed to be subtle at all. It was common for some adult killer whales to demonstrate to young killer whales. But Xiao Qixi couldn't stand it. He felt that the killer whale was being obscene again. Immediately, the whole whale felt bad. He cried angrily and shyly, "Put your head down. I don't know. Get out of here." He was so angry that he was about to explode. With a fierce escape, he finally broke out of the heavy encirclement of the perverted killer whale and swam to the distance of freedom. Seeing the little killer whale escape shyly, Ao Daisai didn't stop the other party this time. He just turned his head slightly and seemed to be very happy. "You will like me." Xiao Qixi, who swam very fast. I like your head. I don't want to listen." But it is undeniable that this unforgettable sound was like a magic sound, leaving a seed in Xiao Qixi's heart. Xiao Qixi returned to the shallow sea where the big group slept and found that his uncle had returned. The other party saw his figure and slowly swam over to care about him. The two killer whales, one big and one small, played for a while. Their family members also woke up. The leader's grandmother asked everyone if they wanted to go hunting. Xiao Qixi, who had just eaten a seal, felt guilty and obediently opened his pectoral fins without saying a word. Then everyone felt hungry and decided to continue on their journey. This decision is so good. The perverted killer whale is nearby. Xiao Qixi can't wait to leave here immediately and get to the equator quickly. He doesn't believe that the other party will follow him. That's impossible. But what if the other party is really so persistent and goes against the killer whale's instinct to migrate with him? Does it prove that the other party is likely to be the reincarnation of Ao Daisai? Oh, there's no result even after thinking about it. Xiao Qixi shook his head. Forget it. Let's take one step at a time. Keeping up with the footsteps of his family members, the Antarctic little killer whale frowned, as if there was something in his heart that was tormenting him. Yes, Xiao Qixi was worried. He was thinking, is it because of the influence of the new species? Ao Daisai in this life is so perverted. Such a perverted killer whale. He also wants to ask, how old are you? Have you dated other killer whales? Xiao Qixi rolled in the water when he thought that the other party was most likely Ao Daisai, and then when he thought that Ao Daisai might have had a gun with other killer whales. No, Yulashanda won't accept it. Bastard Ao Daisai, he dares. Wah. His gun was broken. The unruly Yulashanda felt that Ao Daisai would not betray him, and then he felt that the other party was just a wild killer whale. Of course, he would dare. In the long years, it took more than 10 years for him to grow so big. It was impossible for him to have been pure and simple until now. He must have been intimate with many killer whales. Even if he was not sure that it was Ao Daisai, Xiao Qixi was still very upset. Oh, my boyfriend's big gun has been rubbed by many killer whales. He vomited blood. So sad. He was jealous. In the next few days, Xiao Penghu was so miserable by his own imagination that he couldn't even eat. He couldn't go on like this. He wouldn't look good if he lost weight. He had to make himself happy. Xiao Qishi's unhappiness could be more or less felt by the relatives, and they all expressed their concern. The two cute little killer whales occasionally came to their brother's dorsal fin to play with him. Yulashanda, taking care of children is my strength. But my brother and sister are growing so slowly. They're only a few months old. They are really two very small guys. She remembered that she was only this big at the beginning, and then she was raised by her relatives. It was really not easy. When she grew up, she wanted to run away with a stinky man. Even Xiao Qishi felt that she was too bad and shouldn't have. Uncle Slag's way of comforting her was different. It seemed that he felt that Xiao Qishi was unhappy because she had too few playmates. When he was Xiao Qishi's age, he already had several close friends of his own. He often chatted with them and occasionally got together. Uncle Slag wanted to take Xiao Qishi to a date with the boys, but before they went out, he didn't tell Xiao Qishi where they were going. Probably Xiao Qishi just thought that they were going out to relax and see the scenery. Of course, the scenery on the surface of the sea was the same. Only the scenery at the bottom of the sea was rich and colorful. If you don't become a marine animal once in your life, you won't see the beauty of the sea at all. About 20 minutes of breath-holding skills were enough for Xiao Qishi to swim at the bottom of the shallow sea and see a lot of colorful scenery. Looking for snacks that were often in the sea sand was a very stress-relieving thing. Slowly, Xiao Qishi forgot her troubles and became happy. What Xiao Qishi didn't know was that while he was concentrating on playing, his uncle was calling for friends. That was until he heard his uncle chatting with someone. The content of the conversation was roughly, "My baby is very cute." At first, Xiao Qishi was quite happy. "Hey, uncle is talking about the truth again. It's so embarrassing." But after listening to the end, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. What kind of strange direction was this? Why did it feel like his uncle was a pimp? Xiao Qishi vomited blood. Eavesdropping at the bottom of the sea, he didn't want to float up at all. But 20 minutes had passed, and the oxygen in his lungs was not enough for him to continue being an ostrich. He had to float up to breathe. As soon as the cute Xiao showed his head, his Uncle Lang swam over with a group of killer whales. Looking at those upright dorsal fins, it seemed that they were all male killer whales. That's right, female killer whales wouldn't follow him around. What should I do now? Just as Xiao Qishi was about to slip away, one of the male killer whales had already swam up quickly. Obviously, he was most eager to get in touch with Xiao Qishi. Or maybe he knew Xiao Qishi before, but today was the first time he had close contact with her. Since the other party was close, Xiao Qishi couldn't just leave now. Anyway, their Antarctic killer whales were so gentlemanly. If they didn't like it, they could just refuse directly. Ing. The male killer whale, about 10 years old, came to greet Xiao Qishi and introduced himself. To be fair, he was a very good-looking killer whale. "Baby, you are so cute. I like you." Look, the Antarctic killer whale asking for a date was implicit, and it was different from other rogue killer whales. Xiao Qishi didn't feel ashamed at all when a strange killer whale called him by his nickname, because his heart was open and he had no evil thoughts. Ing. "Hello, so-and-so. You are also very cute, but I don't want to go on a date. Thank you for your love." Xiao Qishi has a human mind. His ability to organize language is better than that of killer whales. It is inevitable that he will be more tactful when he fights. For example, the killer whale in front of him wouldn't understand why the other party thought he was cute but didn't agree to go on a date with him. The killer whale will be very happy to be praised as cute by the object of his affection. The big killer whale happily circled around Xiao Qishi, as if to show his heroism to the other party, trying to make the other party like him more. In fact, the killer whale was 13 years old, but his body shape was similar to that of Ao Daisai, which Xiao Qishi had seen before. He was slender and huge. Xiao Qishi, who was being courted, was very embarrassed. What was the difference between the other party's behavior and showing him naked? After looking straight ahead for a moment, Yulashanda chose to swim away silently. He was tired of seeing killer whales. Compared to watching killer whales churning in the water, he preferred to go to the bottom of the sea to look for delicious snacks. The rejected Antarctic killer whale, as expected, was very gentlemanly and did not continue to pester him. However, there were still many Antarctic killer whales in line behind. They took turns to come forward to contact Xiao Qixi. He didn't know if it was because his uncle's marketing was too powerful or because Xiao Qixi was really too cute, so the killer whale brothers were infatuated with him. This was outrageous. Xiao Qixi rejected 2 killer whales in a row, but found that there was still a line behind him. He was almost going crazy. What's the matter with his garbage uncle? How many killer whales did he bring to watch him? Annoying. However, although he was angry, he found that in the face of the pursuit of these killer whales, he did not feel ashamed or annoyed. His face was not red, and his heart was not beating fast. He was just helpless. Why was this happening? He hadn't thought of the perverted killer whale for a while. Now he suddenly thought of him again, and his little heart immediately jumped. The Antarctic milk whale shook its tail angrily. I don't want him. I don't want him. Is the Antarctic killer whale not a gentleman enough? Why do I want that stinky rogue? Damn it. No matter what, Ao Daisai should have been reincarnated as an Antarctic killer whale. His temper and temperament were all right. Forget it. Xiao Qixi decided to sacrifice his time to go home and stay. Back to half an hour ago, Ao Daisai, who was drifting in the ocean with his brothers, kept hearing the same nickname, which was the name of the little killer whale. The pronunciation was also sweet and greasy. But Ao Daisai didn't seem to like hearing the name from other killer whales. He could block out these sounds because he didn't understand the language of the Antarctic killer whales, except for the nickname. He didn't know what the Antarctic killer whales were talking about. He only heard more and more strange voices shouting the name, and the little killer whale also made a sound and talked to the group of killer whales. Their attitude and tone were much better than his. It seemed that this was special treatment for the same kind, and he, a passing whale from the Atlantic Ocean, was just a stinky rogue with a bad reputation in the eyes of the other party, not worthy of having a relationship with them. Of course, Ao Daisai wouldn't think so carefully. He just knew that he was different from the little milk whale, and maybe they shouldn't be together. However, another idea seemed to be stubborn in the bottom of Ao Daisai's heart, so much so that it affected his every move. He proved with his actions 4 years ago that the desire in his heart could break all norms. The facts seemed to be the case. There was no marine law that stipulated that a passing whale couldn't have an affair with an Antarctic killer whale. Ao Daisai swam to the position he had set as fast as he could. It was a long distance. It might take other killer whales an hour to reach it, but Ao Daisai, who had excellent swimming skills, only took a little more than half an hour. Although he didn't know what he was doing here. Was he going to continue to be rejected? Just as Xiao Qixi rejected the 5th suitor, all the killer whales were attracted by a strange killer whale that suddenly appeared. The other party was huge and had a very strong aura. At first glance, it was not easy to provoke. It did not seem to be as gentle as them. However, the Antarctic killer whales present had nothing to be afraid of. All kinds of killer whales had always minded their own business. They were probably just curious. Why did this strange killer whale appear here alone? Antarctic killer whale, hey, is he lost? Antarctic killer whale B, does he need help? Unlike the chatter of the same kind, Xiao Qixi recognized who it was at once. Just now, she was still very calm and rejected the suitors. Her little heart was beating rapidly. Hey, why is this guy here again? They have migrated so far. Xiao Qixi thought that the other party was still in the Antarctic Circle, or at least in another direction. Why has he been following nearby? All kinds of messy speculations emerged in her heart, like a fire burning Yulashanda's heart. All kinds of killer whales have a certain understanding of each other's species. If this group of Antarctic killer whales knew that Ao Daisai was actually a notorious passing whale, they would not hesitate to drive Ao Daisai away. But unfortunately, Ao Daisai did not have the characteristics of a passing whale, so he succeeded in winning their trust. In the next second, The tall and handsome killer whale inserted its body between the Antarctic milk whale and another Antarctic killer whale, forcefully separating them from each other. The Antarctic killer whale was probably stunned. Xiao Qixi was also at a loss and shy for a while. No, what was this rogue doing? Well, he knew that Ao Daisai had a nickname, but in his heart, he had already translated the other party as a rogue. It was appropriate and easy to remember. However, Xiao Qixi was afraid that the two sides would fight, so he quickly responded to the Antarctic killer whale. It meant, sorry, I can't accept your pursuit. I have someone I like. The poor pursuer blinked and said, okay. By the way, he reminded Xiao Qixi that this killer whale was not of their kind, and quickly stay away from each other. The Atlantic killer whale couldn't understand what they were talking about. It only knew that they were communicating. The two sides were separated by such a big distance, but they were still communicating. Ao Daisai was about to do something when he heard his companion contact him. Ao Daisai, why did you leave? This sentence was not a whisper, but a search of the whole ocean. Then, Xiao Qixi heard the killer whale in front of him lazily reply, dating a small Antarctic killer whale, don't cue me. Xiao Qixi, who was behind the other party, heard it clearly. He was so angry that he couldn't help but roll his eyes. Stinky rogue, don't talk nonsense. Who is dating you? Don't talk nonsense. He was a pure killer whale and had nothing to do with this stinky rogue. Xiao Qixi didn't want to stay here any longer. After the appearance of the lecherous killer whale suspected to be Ao Daisai, he instinctively felt afraid because he was afraid that this guy would flirt with him in front of his uncle and so many killer whales. Of course, he didn't think the other party would dare. The little milk whale left, and Ao Daisai didn't want to deal with these Antarctic killer whales anymore. He turned around and followed the other party. Sneaking out to play again, Xiao Qixi continued to roll his eyes. What did he mean by sneaking out to play? Didn't the other party see such a large group of Antarctic killer whales? Hey, I'm warning you, don't mess around. My uncle is here. If you dare to bully me, I'll teach you a lesson. Xiao Qixi tried to express his meaning, hoping that the other party would accept his threat and leave obediently. If the other party didn't want to leave, then forget it. He would leave by himself. Hey, Ao Daisai didn't seem to take it seriously. He accompanied the little milk whale and swam slowly in the blue sea for a while. He said, the passing whales have the best fighting power in the ocean. Anyway, that was what he meant. Xiao Qixi was suddenly silent and stunned. Yes, the passing whales were the most ferocious in the ocean. Even the great white shark was afraid of them. A mere Antarctic killer whale couldn't beat them, so don't even talk about threatening the other party with his own group. It would be good if the other party didn't threaten him. Little cutie, Ao Daisai and the little milk whale were side by side, and his handsome black and white cheeks were close to it. They catch seals for you. He piled up his chips and seemed to be afraid that he wouldn't give enough, so he added, protect you. The author has something to say. Ao Daisai is really like a gangster young master. HHHHH. There are more updates in the afternoon. Now there are 160,000 bottles of nutrient solution. Love you guys. Chapter 87. Xiao Qixi's heart almost leaped out of her chest at the sight of such a huge body rubbing against her cheeks. It was not just because he was shy, but also because he was guilty. He was guilty and couldn't control himself. Without knowing the identity of the other party, he was flirted with. He felt sorry for his dear boyfriend. No date. Xiao Penghu, who had many little secrets in his heart, refused without hesitation. He knew that this might anger the transient whale that had pursued him again and again, so he softened his tone. I want to get to know you first. When he was rejected, Ao Daisai's mood did fluctuate, and his aura was very dangerous. But the little milk whale said that he wanted to know him first, so of course he could. Now, go ahead. Even if it was just swimming close to the little milk whale, such a simple act made Ao Daisai happy. This was a joy he had never experienced before. After 10 years of being a killer whale, he had long been accustomed to what every day was like, and he had long known what was in the ocean. There was no sense of novelty. However, since the day he taught his companions to learn stranding tactics by the shallow sea, his boring life seemed to have broken into a bright color, and from time to time, it touched Ao Daisai's heartstrings. "Hey, you asked me the question, and I want you to answer it again," Xiao Qishi said. But this sentence seemed to be too profound. The other party did not answer, and it seemed that he could not understand what he meant. "Stupid killer whale, you can't understand if the sentence is a little difficult." Xiao Qishi had no choice but to use the simplest language to ask one by one, "How old are you?" To be honest, he felt like this was a blind date. Ao Daisai's answer was more than 10 years old and less than 20 years old. In short, he was also a subadult and had not reached the real age of childbirth, but he could have been wild for a long time. Male killer whales could participate in that kind of party at the age of 4 or 5. In the past 8 or 10 years, everything that should have happened had happened. Xiao Penghu gritted his teeth and asked, "Have you dated other killer whales?" "No." Ao Daisai's long reflexes seemed to finally understand what the little milk whale meant when it heard the questions in the same order and content. Therefore, Xiao Qishi didn't need to continue asking. He already said, "I know how to release it. Do you want to see it?" Xiao Qishi was still immersed in the previous question. He wondered if the answer he heard was a hallucination. No, this stinky hooligan didn't date other killer whales. Rationally, he knew that killer whale would not lie. But emotionally, he did not believe that an old pervert would be pure for so many years. Who would believe that? But he had to admit that when the other party said no, he was secretly delighted in his heart. A feeling called comfort rippled in his heart, and he was so happy that even his tail couldn't help but wag. Ao Daisai leaned close to the silly little milk whale and whispered again, "I know how to release it. Do you want to see it? Little cutie." Xiao Qishi was finally awakened, and the crystal-clear young man's heart was suddenly pulled into the vortex of lust and stirred. He didn't know why. He, who had slept with his boyfriend thousands of times, was so shy in the face of the rogue killer whale who could express his heart with words. It must be because the previous Ao Daisai couldn't speak, so he didn't feel ashamed. It's really shameful to be able to transmit words. He didn't want to talk about this weird thing. It was even more unbearable than doing it directly. "Don't release it, I don't want to see it," Xiao Qishi hurriedly said, lest the other party release it on the spot. That would not be good. The passing whale, who came from afar, was once again rejected by the little milk whale. It seemed a little annoyed. Yes, even a clay figurine has a temper. What's more, he has a bad reputation, and he always does things as he pleases. The big killer whale, which was a size bigger, turned over and swam sideways. Its mouth was close to the mouth of the little killer whale next door, and it maliciously pushed against it. "You like me?" Counting this time, Ao Daisai said this for the second time. Xiao Qishi looked straight ahead and was too lazy to refute, but in fact, it was because he couldn't refute, and now he was shy. "This dog is taking advantage of me." The mouth of a killer whale is also a mouth. It's very sensitive. How can it push against me? "Little cutie." Ao Daisai pushed against him again. It seems that the switch of the killer whale's coquettish and cute behavior has been turned on, but other killer whales' coquettish and cute behavior is cute and will not cause pressure to people. But this killer whale is the deadly type. It has the aura of, if you dare to refuse, I will die. "Hey," Xiao Qishi was teased, and the two pectoral fins moved involuntarily. Fortunately, he did not forget the business. The purpose of his communication with the other party was to dig out more information. In order to find evidence to confirm his identity, the main purpose was not to flirt. Why didn't you date other killer whales? Perhaps this was also a common question that was not asked by a normal killer whale. The other party was silent for a moment before answering, "I don't like it." It was good to be able to answer smoothly. Xiao Qishi organized the words again, and they were all simple words that the other party could understand. "Oh, it's so tiring. It's embarrassing to have a much higher IQ than my boyfriend. It's really embarrassing. Why do you like me?" Xiao Qishi asked this question, still a little uncomfortable, because the other party did not explicitly say that he liked him. But he kept teasing him, so he thought that he liked him for the time being. But who knows how much the killer whale likes him. Maybe after one round, they will go their separate ways. To be honest, there are too many one-night stands in the ocean. Xiao Qixi didn't want to play, and he couldn't afford to play. You are cute. Ao Daisai answered quickly this time. He leisurely accompanied Xiao Qixi to swim, as if he had the whole day to spend with the other party. Of course, as a wild killer whale, he didn't have to go to work or go to school. If he didn't flirt, he would seem to have more free time. Do you have a date? Xiao Qixi automatically ignored the sentence with a question mark. His heart was pounding, and he asked again, besides being cute? He seemed to want the other party to express more, but this may be too difficult for a wild killer whale. High IQ is also relative, and it can't be compared vertically. Different species have different focuses. Human IQ focuses on logic and thinking ability. Ancient and modern IQ focuses more on fixed cultural inheritance, and it is difficult to innovate. The most recent innovation was a few decades ago when the Patagonian killer whale created the stranding tactic. Although Ao Daisai was special enough, his ceiling was there, and when he encountered a question that he could not answer, he simply kept quiet. Perhaps in Ao Daisai's eyes, it was the little milk whale that had a language problem, not him. When the two killer whales swam farther and farther away, his uncle also followed, as if he was afraid of a conflict between them. So he became the flower guardian behind them. As an old pervert, his uncle could see that the killer whale was pursuing his nephew, but he should be very puzzled as to why an exotic killer whale would pursue an Antarctic killer whale. But to be honest, this big killer whale is really handsome. Their Antarctic killer whale is almost the largest species in the entire ocean, and the other party looks a little bigger. His uncle, who has seen countless whales, has a calm attitude and seems to like his nephew's pursuer. It's a pity that there is a language barrier and they can't communicate. Xiao Qixi and Ao Daisai both found that there was a killer whale following behind them. Xiao Qixi didn't care because it was his uncle. Anyway, the other party couldn't understand what he was talking about with the killer whale. It's just that he couldn't accept being flirted with in front of his uncle. So today's understanding came to an end. He would have a chance to understand it next time. Take it slow. Everything needs a process. If he gave up after being ignored for a few days, it would definitely not be Ao Daisai. And it was so simple to communicate with each other. It was not a matter of minutes to meet each other. Ing. Xiao Qixi called the other party's nickname. You go quickly, my uncle is following. I'm going home. He knew that the other party was going to say that he was a mommy's whale again. Anyway, no matter what happened now, his dream in the future was to be a passing whale. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but peek at the other party. Ao Daisai made a meaningless syllable, but it didn't seem to be meaningless. He was expressing his dissatisfaction. Xiao Qixi soon knew that he saw Ao Daisai stirring up a white water bubble with his tail, instantly blocking his uncle's line of sight from this water bubble. What a childish killer whale. Xiao Qixi found that he wanted to laugh, so he quickly pulled a long face. Swim further away with me, Ao Daisai said to the little milk whale, who was stared at by his companions all day long. That was easier to fall in love if he swam further away. He didn't want to be watched when he was dating. He didn't have that kind of hobby. Ao Daisai swam forward for a while and found that the little milk whale, who had a lot of questions, didn't keep up with him. Come here. The other party turned his head and looked at him. Xiao Qixi shuddered. Was this the feeling of being stared at by the fiercest animal in the ocean? Well, Xiao Qixi finally realized that he was being stubbornly entangled, and his heart was complicated. Ordinary killer whales wouldn't be like this. Ing. He called the other party's name again and thought a way to get rid of the other party temporarily, but he didn't know if it would work. You give me a gift, I'll go on a date with you. The black and white behemoth in front of him tilted his head. Seal? The pronunciation of this word was particularly cute. Ao Daisai asked and answered his own question. I'll catch a seal for you now. It's not a seal, Ing. Xiao Qixi blinked his eyes and described it in a very fussy way. You give me a toy floating on the sea. As long as I'm satisfied, I'll go on a date with you. In the end, even he himself felt that this request was very perverted, pretentious, and very embarrassing. But he had no other way except for this. At first glance, the other party was a hooligan with a bad temper. Behind him were 5 passing whale brothers, who were feared by all marine animals. If they joined forces to attack his small family, the consequences would be unimaginable. Of course, Xiao Qishi didn't think that the other party was so bad. It was just to be on the safe side. It wasn't a bad thing to handle things well. This paragraph was not too complicated. Xiao Qishi expressed it back and forth 3 times. It could be seen that the other party didn't quite understand it the first time. A toy floating on the sea. Ao Daisai get. Satisfied? Get. Date. I agree. Ao Daisai immediately agreed. It could be said that it was worthy of being a wild animal. After being walked several times, Ao Daisai still had the patience to fight a protracted battle with this little milk whale. Of course, after all, sometimes it took them more than 10 hours to track large prey. Okay, I'll go find you a toy. Ao Daisai swam over and put his mouth to Xiao Qishi's mouth. Little killer whale that hasn't grown up yet, goodbye. It was so shameful to talk mouth to mouth. The other party left after acting like a hooligan. He turned around and left Xiao Qishi with an unruly back view. His thick tail with beautiful lines made a string of big snow-white bubbles. Unlike the chaotic and disorderly bubbles that were used to block the line of sight just now, the bubbles made by the other party this time were very beautiful, like fireworks in the water. It was a visual feast. He must have done it on purpose. In a conversation between the 2 killer whales just now, some of them didn't use whispers such as romantic promises and farewells between them. Cool brother Ao Daisai is miserable. He has to give her a toy before he can go on a date. Cool brother B, isn't this easier than catching seals? Cool brother C, I'll give one too. Through their patches, all the passing whales in the ocean know that the poor fellow named Ao Daisai hasn't settled the little Antarctic killer whale yet. They didn't mean to ridicule him. They were just stating the facts. In fact, killer whales are very good to their own kind. They only have sympathy for them, not gloating over their misfortune. The passing whales who eavesdropped on their own kind falling in love got a little wrong knowledge. Pursuing the Antarctic killer whale requires giving toys heavy fog. Xiao Qishi's little heart was still not calm, and the picture of the other party's mouth-to-mouth with him appeared in his mind, as well as the picture of the tail making water bubbles. On the way home with his uncle, he kept receiving some strange messages, the content of which made him want to find a crack in the ground to drill into. Really, I should remember to remind the other party to whisper next time. Ah, no. He said it as if he was looking forward to the next meeting. Sob, no. With a clear direction of effort, Ao Daisai was very happy, because looking for toys floating on the sea was very simple for him, easier than catching seals. The handsome killer whale, who remembered this agreement, began to think about what kind of toys he should find for the other party to win his favor. More than an hour later, yes, some killer whales took more than half an hour to come and more than an hour to go back. Ao Daisai returned to his group triumphantly and had a fight with Brother C. Although Brother C was older than him and had more combat experience than him, however, he relied on his size and strength to gain the upper hand and gave Brother C a slap. Cool Brother C, why did you hit me? Ao Daisai, you flirted with my little cutie. Killer whales don't get jealous, but Ao Daisai does. Not even verbally. The author has something to say. Second watch has been reached. W. The toy delivery segment, although late, arrived. Chapter 88. Practice is a good thing. Since he had more communication with other killer whales, Xiao Qishi's language ability had improved sharply. Slowly, he mastered whispering and blocking things he didn't want to hear. This was a skill that he had to master to live in the sea. Otherwise, his life would be affected every day because of too much information that he couldn't process. Obviously, he had a lot of pink scandals recently. His name was frequently mentioned by the group of cold passerby whales who claimed to not talk if you can do it. It was probably because what had happened to him was too unimaginable. Xiao Qixi wanted to block this group indiscriminately, but he couldn't help but want to listen to what they were saying. In the end, he gritted his teeth and comforted himself. It's okay, just think of it as increasing my vocabulary. It's just being gossiped by a group of killer whales. What's the big deal? Besides, it's just a discussion among a group of killer whales. Their language is limited, and they don't mean any harm. Maybe for this group of cute creatures living in the ocean, their lives are just too boring. It's not easy for something interesting to happen. Of course, they have to tell each other and talk about it after dinner. It's quite cute when you think about it. Xiao Qixi only struggled for a while before accepting the fact that it was a topic for the vast ocean neighbors to talk about, and sometimes he listened with relish. The killer whale's thinking is also quite scattered. Sometimes they like to chat. 1 second they're talking about another thing, and the next second they're talking about another thing. For example, 1 second they were talking about passerby whales and Antarctic killer whales, and the next second they began to describe something they had experienced. In the face of this kind of killer whale that likes to tell stories, Xiao Qixi is so interested that he even wants to eat a handful of sea melon seeds. Some of the killer whale stories are also quite interesting, and not all of them are the kind of content that will be blocked. For example, they met humans in a sea area where humans like to lurk. In their description, humans were a mammal that interested them. The reason why they were interested was that the other party always gave high feedback and seemed very smart. Whether it was a casual turn in a circle or jumping out of the water, it could cause humans to scream. Xiao Qixi, who was once a human, smiled bitterly. Are you kidding me? In addition to listening to these killer whales that he had never met before chat, Xiao Qixi would occasionally hear the group of cool guys talk. Very rarely, except for hearing news about himself on the day he separated from the other party, the group was very quiet. The occasional sound were all related to hunting. It was really cool. What Xiao Qixi didn't know was that the reason why the group of cool guys didn't mention him was because a certain overbearing killer whale had issued a gag order. No matter who brought up Xiao Qixi, Audis would beat them up like a madman until they knew what was good for them. After a few times, the smart killer whales quickly understood what to do so that they wouldn't get beaten up. It's very simple, as long as you don't mention Ao Daisai's little cutie. Xiao Qixi didn't know about these things. His peaceful life continued. Ever since that day, when he had tactfully rejected that stubborn suitor by asking for a gift, he had not seen her for a while. Slowly, he forgot about it. However, he didn't really forget about it. He just felt that things weren't that simple. His journey to find Ao Daisai must be very long. In June, after more than 2 months of leisurely drifting, Xiao Qixi and her family of 7 arrived at the waters near the Cologne archipelago. The scenery here was beautiful, the sea was blue and clear, and there were many seals perched on the beach on the shore. Xiao Qixi stood upright in the water and poked her head out of the water. This was the most common peeping method used by killer whales. Then, she saw a black patch of seals lying on the beach, basking in the sun happily. It was a delicacy that he could only dream of. Her uncles obviously didn't have this idea. Everyone was eating fish. Most of the fish near the tropical waters were colorful. Such beautiful and cute creatures were sometimes reluctant to part with Xiao Qixi. The 2 little killer whales broke into the colorful world for the first time. They freely explored the beautiful underwater scenery while their mother was eating. As the big brother, Xiao Qixi followed closely so that the children wouldn't be stuck in some corners and couldn't get out. Moreover, the breathing rate of the little killer whale was higher than that of the big killer whale. Every 10 minutes, they had to lift them out of the sea to breathe. The big brother took care of the children for the whole afternoon and felt that he couldn't take it anymore. Taking care of children was really tiring, whether it was animals or humans. When night fell, the sky of the Clone Islands was full of rosy clouds. It felt very summery. The killer whales, who didn't know the difference between day and night, drifted freely on the sea. Of course, this freedom was limited. In general, they gathered together as a family. At the front of the team was the leader of their family, quietly and kindly controlling the direction of the voyage. Compared with the quietness of the family members, Xiao Qixi poked her head out from time to enjoy the rare beauty of the sea. The rosy clouds in the sky were too beautiful, and some seabirds flew over the faint treetops. The sound of the waves and the birds were woven together, and it was very beautiful. However, the killer whale did not do that. He swam with the string of floating balls for a long time. So, people had to continue to pay attention to his state. If it didn't work, they would take action. 2 days later, when people photographed the killer whale again, they were happy to find that the other party no longer had a floating ball hanging on its dorsal fin. However, what made people dumbfounded was that the string of floating balls was currently in the killer whale's mouth. Does he like this string of floating balls? People asked. I don't know. They knew the identity of the killer whale and said without surprise, Ao Daisai has always been a maverick. Have you forgotten? The humans who wanted to know why Ao Daisai was drifting with floating balls had to continue to pay attention to the other party's movements. When Xiao Qixi received the notification from Ao Daisai, her heart, which had been calm for more than a month, began to ripple again. Regardless of whether he admitted it or not, he was moved by the killer whale's fierce offensive. It couldn't be said to be fierce. At least the other party did not frequently send messages to harass him, which made Xiao Qixi feel very good about him. Some males, once they like a certain female, always contact the other party frequently, regardless of whether the other party likes him or not. Simply put, they only care about their own feelings, regardless of the other party's feelings. This was very annoying, and they deserved not to be able to catch up with the other party. In this way, this killer whale was also a gentleman of the sea. If it promised to do something, it would do it. It would not bother him before it was done. It only informed him when it was coming over. There were so many advantages. The more Xiao Qixi thought about it, the faster her heart beat. She felt that she liked this. How long would it take for the other party to rush over? From this day onwards, Xiao Qixi waited with anticipation and some fear. He hoped that the result would be what he imagined. After some time, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The moonlight shone on the surface of the sea, reflecting the sparkling waves. In this calm sea, a group of killer whales were sleeping soundly. Even the 2 baby killer whales had fallen asleep on their mother's back. The only ones in the family who were not sleeping were probably the uncle, who was secretly chatting with the handsome brothers, and the young man in a suit, Xiao Qixi, who was yearning for love. He had just received a simple message from the other party, saying that he would be arriving soon. Xiao Qixing, who felt like a little deer was running around in his heart, quietly moaned to indicate that he knew. While the family members were sleeping soundly, he sneaked out to meet. Ugh! He was not his lover yet, just a friend for now. His uncle seemed to know that he had gone out, but the other party was very sensible and did not chase after him. After all, he had done such things many times during his adolescence. Xiao Qixi did not have a clear location. He swam quietly in the water and came to the other side of the island. There was a beautiful bay here. During the day, the sea water was especially clear, and it was the color of aquamarine. Tonight, the moonlight was like water, and it still looked very clear and beautiful on the shallow sea. Ao Daisai, little cutie? Xiao Qixi, ugh, you're here. Did you come here on your own? Ugh. Of course, Ao Daisai would not allow his companions to come with him. They would stay in the distance or go hunting. It was up to them. In short, they should not disturb his date. Oh, that's good. Xiao Qixi felt uncomfortable, so he tried to find a topic to ease his awkwardness. There are many seals here. Did you see them? There was a pause and a moment of silence. Do you want to eat them? Ao Daisai seemed to be hesitating. Should he go over directly to meet his baby killer whale or catch a seal? He was really thinking. No. Xiao Qixi quickly denied it. Now is not the time to eat seals. There are more important things. I don't want to eat. Come here quickly. Ao Daisai was warmly invited by Xiao Qixi and wagged his tail happily. He remembered that the last 2 times they met, the other party always drove him away. Did you miss me? He swam very fast, and because of Xiao Qishi's words, he swam a little faster. No, Xiao Qishi was speechless, and he was accidentally teased by the other party again. He didn't want to, he just wanted to know the result. As for whether the result would disappoint him and what to do after being disappointed, Xiao Qishi didn't think much about it. Take one step at a time. In short, he couldn't calmly face the aggressive killer whale. Even if he didn't fall now, he would fall one day. Ao Daisai didn't say anything more because he was almost there. Under the moonlight, his huge figure gradually approached the bay. The quiet and vast bay became cramped because of his dive, and in an instant, there seemed to be only 2 killer whales left between heaven and earth. Of course, there was still a short distance between them at this time. The fluctuations of the ocean current made Xiao Qishi feel that a huge creature was approaching him. He turned around and saw the black and white killer whale in the distance at once. Later, it was really strange. Even if the killer whales basically looked the same, Xiao Qishi felt that he could recognize each other at a glance in the group of whales. He couldn't tell exactly what was different, but it was different anyway. This killer whale was more majestic, more powerful, and more handsome than others. There was an indescribable style that touched his heart. The other party swam over with a string of small yellow floating balls in his mouth. Well, it was indeed a small floating ball in the eye of the killer whale, but in fact, it was the size of a volleyball. It should be a warning floating ball. The gift brought by Ao Daisai was about 5 or 6, and it was still very new. It seemed that it hadn't been floating in the sea for long before it was picked up by Ao Daisai. Xiao Qishi stared blankly at the string of small floating balls and couldn't move. Suddenly, he wanted to cry. Oh, it was a small yellow ball. It turned out to be a small yellow ball. He felt that this must not be a coincidence. How could there be such a beautiful coincidence in the world? There was only fate and destiny in the world. You're here. Xiao Qishi calmed down and accepted the expected result. The other party, as he thought, was born in the ocean like a piece of white paper and did not suffer the pain of reincarnation with memories. But after waiting for 7 years, Ao Daisai finally came to him with a small yellow ball. Xiao Qishi was still in awe of this fate, as if it were a miracle. His little heart couldn't stop trembling. After Ao Daisai sneaked into the bay, he changed his previous ferocious momentum and became quite patient as he approached slowly. This time, he came with a toy, and he was obviously determined to get it. Ao Daisai took the small floating balls with beautiful colors to the little cutie and asked, "Do you like it?" The Antarctic milk whale, whose heart was pounding, groaned and touched the small yellow floating balls with his mouth. There were 6 in total. He liked it very much. He liked it so much that his little heart was about to split open. "Do you like it?" Ao Daisai approached the little milk whale, and his mouth touched the other's mouth again. It seemed that after the last time he tried it, he fell in love with this way of teasing. He approached step by step. "It's the 3rd time. Don't play with me." Killer whales will remember the number of failures. If the number of failures accumulates too much, it is likely to form a psychological shadow on them, and they will never touch the things that make them fail again in the future. "I like it." Xiao Qishi honestly admitted his feelings. He was just too excited and didn't answer in time. In fact, he was no longer entangled. There was nothing to entangle. Ao Daisai was Ao Daisai. Whether he had memories or not, he was still Ao Daisai. Like I said, the heart won't deceive you. In the case of no choice, it's never wrong to follow your feelings. Xiao Qishi smirked. He was so happy. He knew that in this world, no one would be so patient to coax him, but Ao Daisai would always be. "Hey!" In front of this handsome and domineering killer whale, Xiao Qishi changed his previous attitude of rejection and confessed shyly. "I like you, Ao Daisai." He called Ao Daisai's nickname. Although the translation of the other party's nickname didn't mean Ao Daisai, it didn't matter. He felt that it was. Just like before, he translated the other party's nickname as Stinky Rogue. Thinking about it carefully, this nickname also contained a lot of love. Everything had been foreseen. The second Ao Daisai got the confession, he still looked at his little cutie as before, as if digesting the meaning contained in this message. He was usually not such a slow killer whale. When he was angered, his reaction was faster than anyone else, but he had to admit that in front of little cutie today, he was not up to par. Wasn't it just a confession? How big of a deal? Ao Daisai was in a good mood. His lips touched little cutie's face several times in a row, but this was not enough. His body was close to the other's body, and with the lubrication of the water, they touched each other. Their pectoral fins also touched each other, like hugging each other. The two killer whales, immersed in the sea of love, let themselves go with the flow. Mouth to mouth, face to face, neck. Well, sorry, they don't have necks. In short, they touched each other wherever they could. The two killer whales who had successfully confessed to each other were like patients with skin hunger and thirst, trying their best to stick to each other. Even the turbulent sea water could not separate them. What's more, the current was lazy and calm, which was very suitable for dating. Did you agree to go on a date with me? Ao Daisai pressed down on little cutie, who was swimming backstroke. His huge and stout body, looking down from above, almost blocked the other killer whale. Hey, well, I've kissed and hugged him. Do I still need to ask questions or not? Thinking of the dating scene of male killer whales that he had watched, Xiao Qixi felt ashamed. He did not dare to look down for fear of seeing something sexual. Do you know how to date? The giant killer whale, who got what he wanted, was as straightforward as ever, and with that kind of erotic voice, it always made Xiao Qixi feel that the other party was flirting with him. Before Zhang Heng could answer, Otis stepped down and used his short and smooth mouth to gently push the spot where his little cutie was hiding the treasure. It was as if he was knocking on a door, trying to wake up the little cutie that was hiding inside. Of course, his movements were much gentler than knocking on the door, and his knocking was not fierce. Xiao Qixi felt like he was going to die. The killer whale was originally a big boss who could reach the top by relying on his imagination. Not to mention that after a series of kisses and hugs just now, his face was red and his heart was beating fast. In fact, his little cutie had already felt like waking up. At this time, after being stimulated by external stimuli, he was even more on the verge of coming out. But he was also a pure little virgin whale. He usually didn't think about these things at all, so he endured it and wouldn't really come out for a while. This was normal. A killer whale's date was a slightly long process, and the prelude sometimes lasted for a long time. It turned out that they also enjoyed this process very much. In the drama of pushing and pulling with their date, the two killer whales not only felt physical pleasure, but they also gained psychological pleasure. Ao Daisai was full of novelty for this process. He who had gone on a date for the first time didn't need little cutie to stimulate him. He had already made his stance clear. The author has something to say. Ao Daisai, my gun is right here. You have the final say on whether it's big or not. Xiao Qixi. I was flirted with so much, damn it. HHHHH. Some friend said that Ao Daisai's bear setting had collapsed. How to say it? Part of it was his true temperament, and part of it was the influence of the species. After all, he had not recovered his memory yet. If he always remained the same, he would be sorry for this long time and the colorful world. Xiao was the same. Without the pressure of survival, life was like a child, which was a good thing. After trying to adapt to the environment, it became livelier and livelier. I released him. Ao Daisai informed the other party. Her unique voice instantly made Xiao Qixi understand what the other party meant by feeling uncomfortable. Oh, so that's what he meant. She felt the temperature of the water rising, and she couldn't hold it in any longer. Ao Daisai's whisper was almost inaudible, but with a force that Xiao Qixi could not refuse. Don't you want to see? The reason why Xiao Qixi was so shy was that he had already seen it and was scared. Fortunately, he did not have a reproductive fissure, or he would really want to die. The little milk whale said that he wanted to see, so Ao Daisai stopped talking and urged him. She just lay quietly on her back, silently enjoying little cutie's gaze. Xiao Qishi promised Ao Daisai and retreated into the sea. His eyes moved little by little to Ao Daisai's tail. He originally thought that there was not enough light at night, so it should be a vague shadow. But at that moment, the other party strongly crashed into his eyes, so he could see it clearly. The scene was so explosive that Xiao Qishi immediately closed her eyes. She silently felt her heartbeat fall from the highest point to a value that would not cause sudden death. Only then did she open her eyes again. Cough. The size was more impressive than he had imagined, but it was not as ferocious and terrible as he had imagined. Its appearance was actually quite pleasing to the eye. If he had hands, unfortunately, he did not. After mentally preparing himself, Xiao Qishi approached silently and also used his mouth to press against Ao Daisai's tail. The little white killer whale seemed to be fluttering around his cheek and occasionally touching his face. There was no more shameful experience than this. Continue, Ao Daisai urged in a suppressed voice. Continue with your head. Xiao Qishi could not take it anymore. He left Ao Daisai's tail in shame, but after the killer whale felt that he had left, it immediately came to stop him. It used its chest and tail, nothing was spared. In this way, the previous calmness and laziness between them changed. Because one wanted to escape and the other wanted to chase, the surrounding water was splashed high by them. In this kind of entanglement, tugging, and pulling confrontation, Xiao Qishi saw Ao Daisai's existence again and again, and he himself was lost in the churning water. Oh, there was a feeling of wanting to cry, and a strange sense of loss of control occupied his heart. At this moment, Xiao Qishi felt that he was a small boat floating on the sea. He needed to hold on to something tightly to fight against the confusion and fear in his heart. Ao Daisai was very sensitive. He noticed that his little cutie's mood was unstable and seemed to be frightened, so he did not care about being a hooligan and hugged the other party. Oh, although they were just sticking to each other, it was indeed a hug for them. The killer whale's voice could also be very ethereal and could also be very healing. They had more than 60 different voices. Ao Daisai hugged the little milk whale who was frightened by the content of the date, gently swinging its tail and floating in the warm ocean current. From his mouth came a soft, soothing, and healing whisper, which was lower than the high and sharp dolphin sound, as if he was singing only to the little cutie in his arms. Xiao Qishi gradually calmed down. Under the other's comfort, he accepted that he was controlled by the new species and let the shame sway in the warm water. Accept it, although it is really strange. No terrestrial animal can compare to it. The other killer whale that he was dating no longer sang. The other party hugged him and slowly approached his tail with his tail. This was a long process. At first, it was just a test, and in the end, they would find a suitable angle that satisfied each other. I saw yours. Ao Daisai touched Xiao Qishi's tail with his tail and said something flirtatious in Xiao Qishi's ear. Xiao Qishi was annoyed, and his heart thumped back. I saw yours too. Is it good? Ao Daisai was definitely laughing. Oof. The Antarctic little killer whale refused to communicate again. Not all killer whales like to communicate when doing things. Anyway, Xiao Hujing didn't like it. He was too shy. Communicate my ass. Isn't it good to work seriously? Ao Daisai obviously liked it, but he couldn't get a response from the little cutie, so he had to give up. It was good enough that he could hug the other party now. If he flirted too much, he was afraid that there would be no future. However, when he was excited, he still couldn't help but say a few flirtatious words. Of course, he didn't think there was any problem. All the killer whales in the ocean were so straightforward. He, who could sing to coax the other party, was already considered reserved. Xiao Penghu, I know you are handsome. I know your voice is nice. Can you let my heart rest for a while? Stop, I can't stand it. After being intimate with Ao Daisai, Xiao Qishi seemed to have opened the door to a new world. How to say it? Many questions that had been puzzled before were now solved. For example, why were killer whales so keen on dating handsome brothers? Because it was comfortable. The older brother was handsome and had good marksmanship. The younger brother couldn't stand it. He fell in love with him at a glance. and his bullets were shot. She didn't know how much time had passed, but she felt that the moon in the sky was slightly tilted. In short, it was not early anymore. It was probably Xiao Qixi uncle who went back after having fun and found that his nephew hadn't come back yet. So he used ultrasound to contact the child. "Where's the baby?" Xiao Qixi was happy when she suddenly received a greeting from her uncle. She suddenly sobered up a lot and remembered that she had been out for a long time. "Who called you?" Ao Daisai heard it, and his voice changed slightly. "Oh, my uncle." Xiao Qixi expressed that it was her family member. "I have been away from them for too long." Killer whales in their group usually leave their family members for no more than 5 hours. Otherwise, their relatives would be worried. Oh, it turned out to be her uncle. No matter how crazy Ao Daisai was, she wouldn't be jealous of her uncle. Killer whales wouldn't do such a shameless thing as internal family sales. "Are you leaving?" A handsome man was hugging her so affectionately. Xiao Qixi couldn't say the words, "Let's meet another day," not to mention that they were not done yet. How could they leave? "I'm not leaving. I'll stay a little longer." Since it had been confirmed that the other party was Ao Daisai, for Xiao Qixi, everything added up was not as important as Ao Daisai, and he obviously felt that the other party didn't want him to leave. So how could he be willing to leave? "Oh." Ao Daisai seemed to respond casually, but there was unconcealable happiness. Not bad. It seemed that the toys he brought had captured the little killer whale's heart. He was smart enough to think that he would continue to give gifts next time. Xiao Qixi didn't know what her partner was thinking. He replied to his uncle, who was concerned about him. "Ah, I'm still playing outside." "Uncle, Ing, you should come back." Xiao Qixi, "Ing, no, I'm still on a date. I'll come back at dawn." "Uncle, is he handsome?" F***CK. What kind of complicated feelings would it be to be asked about your dear boyfriend by your own uncle? What's more, her uncle had a dirty personality, but Xiao Qixi didn't want to say that Ao Daisai wasn't handsome. Xiao Qixi, "Anyway, I like it very much. Okay, goodbye." Her uncle thought, "You'll come back at dawn. Even if you're not handsome, you're still very good." Halfway through the intimacy, the little cutie was distracted by the parents' inspection. Although Ao Daisai was helpless, he could only wait patiently. At this time, his companions were also concerned about him. After all, he hadn't been back for too long. "Cool brother, eh? Ao Daisai, does your little cutie like the toys you gave him?" Only the head would ask, because Ao Daisai wouldn't beat him up. Ao Daisai, yes. It was precisely because he had been accepted by the little cutie that he was in a good mood, so he answered all of her questions. The group of cool guys collectively felt his happiness. After a few seconds, all the passing whales in the ocean knew that Ao Daisai and the Antarctic little killer whale had done it. After processing the information at the same time, they still had half a night left. Xiao Qixi felt wrong that she did not remember her boyfriend. She thought about the 7 years of loneliness and emptiness. Finally, she could no longer suppress her longing. She hugged Otis and kissed him. Ao Daisai, who had no memory, was dumbfounded. His heart must have suffered a huge blow. Under the morning sun, Ao Daisai's handsome figure attracted Xiao Qixi's attention. He didn't know how many times he had peeked at the other party since dawn. Fortunately, the killer whale wouldn't laugh at him for such a small detail. Everything was just his own entanglement. Wait a minute. Ao Daisai floated quietly on the surface of the water and watched Xiao Qixi carefully. Suddenly, he turned his head and swam away. "What are you going to do?" Xiao Qixi didn't dare to look at the other party at first. He always felt that the other party with intelligence had seen through him and couldn't be as presumptuous as before. Well, in short, he was a little restrained. It turned out that this was the feeling of falling in love with someone with intelligence. His mood swings were 100 times greater than before. Now that the other party was swimming away, Xiao Qixi blinked and followed. When he used his tail to swing the water, he didn't know if it was Xiao Qixi's illusion, but he felt that his tail was a little sore. It shouldn't be an illusion. After all night last night, They controlled their tails to touch each other. Ahem, it seemed that the sore tail was pardonable. Ao Daisai searched the sea for more than 10 minutes and finally found the string of yellow float balls that floated away last night while they were being intimate. He picked them up and sent them back to Xiao Qishi. In his heart, this was the other party's favorite toy, and it would be bad to lose it. Why did you give me this? Xiao Qishi had long wanted to ask, and he was very curious about the answer. Ao Daisai expressed that it looked good. This was a good reason. Xiao Qishi knew that no matter how much he asked, he wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. Maybe even this guy himself didn't know? Thank you. He accepted the gift with a smile. Xiao Qishi dived and rose again, and successfully hung the float balls on his dorsal fin. Hey, does it look good? Ao Daisai expressed his affirmation. No one knew what kind of bad ideas were hidden in his dark eyes, but in the end, nothing happened. He just asked lazily, "Where is your companion?" Xiao Qishi snorted. Why are you asking this? Ao Daisai, to escort you back. Xiao Qishi, no need, it's on the other side of this island. Ao Daisai, I want to send you back. Xiao Qishi blinked and remembered that the other party seemed to have said that he wanted to protect him. His heart palpitated, and he calmly agreed. Up to you. The beautiful gift from the killer whale was hanging on his dorsal fin. Xiao Qishi swam slowly in front. At the age of 7, his body size was already very impressive. Even if he swam alone in the sea, there would not be any sea animals who would be blind enough to bully him. However, it was fun to be sent home by his boyfriend. After dating all night, the little milk whale with a soft tail glanced at the handsome brother next door from time to time. It was very safe to tell him the truth. Do you have any more trash on you? When Xiao Qishi and Ao Daisai hugged each other intimately, it was as if there was a lively deer living in their hearts, and they would be very excited and hot-blooded. When their faces touched, they would feel warm and happy. Occasionally, they seemed to be worried that he would be jealous of his younger siblings, so they would deliberately make him happy and tell him that everyone had not neglected him. Yilashanda, no, please let him live freely. No matter what Xiao Qishi thought when he was born into this family, he now regarded these killer whales as his real relatives. Otherwise, he would have left the group by now. Thinking of Ao Daisai, Xiao Qishi poked his head out of the water and swept his big grape-like eyes across the sea. He used Fat Tiger's professional peeping technique to see if the other party had left. There was no dorsal fin of the killer whale within a 50-meter radius, which meant that Ao Daisai had already left. Ah, he didn't even make a sound. Xiao Qishi, Ao Daisai, have you gone back? Ao Daisai. The other party made a sound to him, but didn't mean to go back. It seemed that he was just chatting. He was responding to his sticky little boyfriend. However, as if he felt that he was too straight, Ao Daisai finally said something meaningful. Go catch a seal and eat it. Xiao Qishi couldn't wait for him to not speak, because he couldn't eat it. Oh, I want to eat it too. Ao Daisai got it. Xiao Qishi, question mark. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that Ao Daisai, who had an IQ, was so straight. He used to regret it every day. If only he could talk to Ao Daisai. They could talk a lot and exchange little secrets that they didn't know about. He also wanted to convey this wonderful world to Ao Daisai in words. For example, the drones that occasionally appeared in the sky. Oh, Daisai. Look, this thing is called a drone. It often spies on the lives of us animals. It's very crazy. It doesn't even let go of us when we're sleeping. When he saw a huge oil tanker, he could tell the other party, Ao Daisai, look, this is a luxurious cruise ship that humans use to enjoy life. It has a comfortable environment, food, and entertainment. Sitting on a cruise ship and traveling around the world used to be on my list of plans. But I didn't realize it because it was too expensive. Isn't it because I died early? In Xiao Qishi's fantasy, Ao Daisai would definitely be amazed by this new information like a country bumpkin. Then, he would smile gently and praise him. Yolashanda knows so much. In reality, when the two of them could finally communicate, he was the one who was refreshed, not Ao Daisai. Xiao Qi. It's too difficult for me. He could communicate with the Ao Daisai he thought of before, gentle, steady, strong, and even a little silly. Every day, other than eating and sleeping, he was raised like a son. Of course, he didn't mean that he didn't like Ao Daisai. There was no doubt that he loved Ao Daisai. If Ao Daisai was single, it wouldn't matter where he went, but the other party had companions. Xiao Qi let himself drift freely in the sea. There were strands of kelp under his belly. He used to hate this kind of environment and felt dizzy when he looked down, especially at night. Who knows what is hidden in it? Hey, it looks like hair. It's scary. Now it's a little better. Occasionally, he dares to dive down to find food during the day. Ao Daisai wouldn't be afraid, would he? The other party was already very familiar with ocean life. It should be easier for him to become a killer whale. Xiao Qishi's uncle didn't go out today. The other party was singing beside him and seemed to enjoy this quiet evening. His singing was very good. At this moment, the same kind of killer whales around the world were also listening to his singing. Soon, Xiao Qishi heard that many killer whales were praising his uncle's singing and saying that they liked it very much. This was a relatively reserved statement. There were also some very bold existences who directly asked if they could go on a date. Xiao Qishi. This is not something children should listen to. There were probably too many high-quality killer whales. His uncle only accompanied him for half an hour before he went out to play at night. When he left, he told him to be obedient. Xiao Qishi was amused. In terms of age, he was even older than his uncle. However, his heart was still warm. He could fully feel the other party's love for him, although it was free range. However, killer whale families were like this. Don't be harsh, don't be harsh. Not long after his uncle left, his boyfriend, who had been missing for 24 hours, finally contacted him. It was still a meaningless syllable. Xiao Qishi also followed suit. Were they competing to be cool? He wouldn't lose. Then there was no more sound from the other party. Xiao Qishi, sob, 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 I lost. Why are you competing with a killer whale? Xiao Qishi blinked and gave up on competing with Ao Daisai. What are you doing? Where are you? Ao Daisai. I'm catching seals for you. Xiao Qishi. You've been catching seals for a day? Ao Daisai. Xiao Qishi thought to himself. Your head. I don't believe you. Sea scum men are very bad. Did you catch it? Xiao Qishi floated up and took a breath of fresh air. He took a deep breath and didn't want to argue with a killer whale. I miss you. The other party could flirt with him, and he could flirt with the other party back. The problem was, did a killer whale know what flirting was? Did he know that he was being flirted with? I caught it. On the way, Ao Daisai looked very happy. There was no doubt that he knew that he was being flirted with. I'm 50 nautical miles away from you. Xiao Qishi's heart suddenly softened. He used echolocation to measure it. It was no longer 50 nautical miles. The distance between them had shortened by a few nautical miles. Where are your companions?